Existent.
Top notch.
Get out the beach! Get out the beach! Hans, get off the beach!
Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to the GeekVerse podcast, the 639th episode of the GeekVerse podcast. I'm the Clown Prince of Podcasts for the second week in a row, or second podcast in a row, because I thought it was fitting, which we'll talk about later. And I'm joined by...
Hey, I'm the Animal Heart caster, Dylan Moss.
I'm the going in circles Taylor Field.
Oh, yeah, I wonder
There
what
he
that's
is.
pertaining to. Hang on, I just had to change the title here. I forgot the episode title. Spelled Rumors wrong. I'm on a roll right now. You know, didn't know Kirkland wasn't going to be here, but yes, no Kirkland today. But we are here right before a nice Canadian long. I guess it's not Canadian. I guess it's a long weekend everywhere. But we are here to have a little newscast going on because there's lots of stuff. We didn't do one last week. I don't think. I can't remember.
You and Taylor did, right?
Was it last week or the week
Little
before
two-man
though?
moment. That was last week.
I'll say it's last week, but I wouldn't put my money on it.
Maybe it was early. I guess it was the Tuesday, so it was a little earlier
Because
than we
part of
usually do
me
newscast.
not doing it was like, I gotta fly to Kelowna and I gotta do
Yeah.
some shit, and I didn't really want to. Yeah.
Some shit, yeah. So right, yeah, that's why is because it was a little earlier because Extra Life, right? And we had some stuff going on, but yeah, we got lots of stuff to talk about. Literally, it was going to be like there's a couple good topics, but it was some catch up of the stuff that Taylor and I booted. That was like evergreen stuff of like, okay, some trailers and movies let's talk about, but we got so busy last week, and then this week, just today, you can tell, you know, not to get too much in, but you can tell that the election's over because people are just dropping news like everything, like oh, Amazon Mass Effect show, oh, Batman show, Star Wars, we're making 3 million movies. You could tell they're like, okay, now the news cycle's calmed down. Let's do that. But yeah, speaking of that, we're going to have some fun. I know it's been a tough week for some people. We understand. Always come to our Discord. As I tweeted out this week, always a safe space because online get a little crazy. Our Discord is just all love and talking geek stuff. It's been a rocky week, but it was a good week in there with everybody talking. Even today, it was fun seeing a mini conversation about The Substance, which we just reviewed. But yeah, the Discord's down below. If the link ever does not work, because it changes all the time, I try to keep it updated. But just let us know, and we can always shoot you a link, and we'd love to have you in there. And that's a good space, and it's just safe, and it's all just I love our community that we've built. I love the
Me too.
people we have. It's just it's not the biggest thing in the world, but I would take this for the biggest thing for having a bunch of assholes in there. And like I said, I think we talked about also the 9 year. I'm always waiting. I'm like, oh, one day someone's gonna join like we've not had to ban anyone from the Discord, or like we've never had someone calling after 9 where I'm like, oh, this person's just kind of mean spirit, or like we've been very lucky. Maybe that's just what people hear, and they're like, okay, like I match those people, so that's good. But yeah, always come over there. It's a fun time, and we're gonna have some fun today. We're gonna start off now. I'm not sure how much you have been watching, Dilmus, but is there anything you haven't watched other than we did all review, plus Kirkland Substance? That was yesterday. Again, thank you to Charlie Randall. That was a good time. We did an hour and a half, one of our longer, like just single movie retros. So check that out. That's lots of fun. And like we said in the Discord, people are talking about their interpretation. So it's a movie that I feel like every time, because both Charlie and Mike said something that I didn't think about or didn't think about that perspective. So I feel like it's a good movie that when someone else new watches, they're going to have something else. So, S Bubs, yeah, there you go. Was very happy to hear our 2K discussion on side quests. So.
Yeah, go check out SideQuest. It was a really fun kind of recap of our highlights from the 24-hour stream,
Yeah.
and then a bunch of other things as well. So yeah, it was a fun episode.
S Bubs, because I keep you guys updated because you're not in there in the wrestling Discord. He's finally playing a second season of GM mode because he said he took some advice from me, because what he would do is always in those early weeks he would start to get beat and he would quit and just start a new file because he's so far ahead. But remember, I guys told you it's not a sprint, it's a marathon, and that's where you gotta keep going. So going to SideQuest, we talked about, and the stream. If people don't know, the charity stream happened this weekend. A big thank you. Can't remember it's I think it's 1402 now that we added the sale shirts, and then it's like almost just under $2,000 for Canadian dollars. So, which is very impressive. I should probably shout that out more because it is the BC Children's Hospital as in Canadian. So when you hear it that way, you're like, man, like almost $2,000. And yeah, now we've raised. It's by next year we're very close to 14,000 American overall these past 8 years. So and we were in the top 1,000. So just to hear that is really great, and just to have an average of more than 1,000 a year. A big thank you to everyone that donated, everybody that watched, streamed. It was a good time. I know I detoured, so sorry about that, Dylan. But I just thought I should get that out of the way first about the people, because
all good shout outs.
If it was just us and our family, of course we could raise some money. But people, whether it's the trivia battle, popping in the chat, sharing the links, we couldn't do this podcast because of you guys, or the Extra Life charity stream. We'd still be at like that 500 goal we did the first year. Now like, it's crazy. No matter what happens with the podcast, even if it ended today, it's like we've almost raised like what is that in Canadian? Let's do Canadian dollars here, because I'm not a smart on the bubble guy. So 14,000, so almost $20,000 for the BC Children's Hospital. Pretty impressive. I don't think when we started this podcast we would ever thought like, hey, we're raising $20K for a charity. So pretty good,
Pretty good stuff.
Yeah. So thank you, everybody. Dylan, what have you been watching?
I've watched a lot in the last couple weeks here. A couple very quick shows. I watched Don't Move, which is that like newer Netflix.
Oh, good. I want to hear your thoughts.
thing.
Yeah, it's been in my queue. Yeah, produced by Sam Raimi, and I love Flint Wittrock. He's in there.
Is that the main guy?
Yeah,
I think?
dark-haired
Okay.
guy. I don't know what role he plays, but he's a favorite.
What have I seen him in recently? He was in something else recently. That was maybe I'm just mixing him up with Josh Hartnett from Trap or something.
You could. They have a very
similar
similar
energy.
look. He was in. Did you see The Big Short recently? I know Taylor did.
No.
He's in a lot of seasons of American Horror Story.
He looks familiar enough, but anyway, I don't know the exact thing that I've seen him in.
Last year, did you watch that Anna Armas Ben Affleck sex thriller? Did you watch that? He's in
I probably
there.
should have, but I did not.
You should have, yeah. But he's a guy that he keeps popping up in like bit roles. But yeah, and he was cast as Green Lantern before James Gunn did the whole cutaway. So
the old cutaway.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's funny. Seeing the movie, seeing Sam Raimi, seeing Don't Move, I'm like, okay, is this like somehow like not a sequel to Don't Breathe, but is it trying to go for that same sort of thing? Which it definitely isn't. Very different vibes. I think the writing was pretty weak on it, and overall it was not great, but it is like a fun novel concept for a thriller horror sort of movie. I think it really is just like some of the story writing in particular is what brings it down. But it was, if it's on Netflix, you just want kind of something dumb, you can turn your brain off and just kind of watch it. It's one of those. It's good. The other one in that realm that I watched is I finally watched Night Swim for whatever reason.
Yeah.
And I had very, very low expectations for it for whatever reason, just because of the song conversations that have circled it. And I thought it was very fun. It was very different vibe than I thought. I didn't expect it to be like a family about a family. I don't know. I thought it'd be just like really grotesque horror, like a lot of, adult pool parties, maybe some nudity, people dying in this
just
pool.
young teens.
But yeah,
drinking,
it's a very different vibe than that. Very cheesy, but I had a lot of fun with it. It was a good time. So shout out to Night Swim. And then getting into the upper echelon stuff, a big Halloween watch for me and Muds was Immaculate. Finally got around to that. Yeah, really, really enjoyed that because I feel like it was kind of an against type sort of thing for Sweeney. I haven't seen her do something quite like that before, and I was really impressed by her performance in there. And I guess the only other thing is that I've seen her in a leading role in a movie would have been that thing with Glenn Powell that I forget the
Anyone
name
But
of.
You.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so
which is
like a
very
different. But that movie has some crazy plot stuff going on. Like the lore is really interesting. Cinematography is fantastic. So that was a good time. Moving up,
I love. Before you go, I just love. I won't say what it is for people who haven't seen it, but I love the reveal of how she got pregnant. It's so just batshit, but it's like in a cool I didn't think about that when the movie started. I'm like, I guess in this weird hidden reality room, like I guess you could make that work with science, but I love that reveal. Like, okay, this is. I thought it was clever how they got there, and like I said, I don't think it's realistic, but in the world they set up, I was like, okay, I dig that. So
yeah. And then two more kind of earlier from this year that I finally caught up on. One, Lisa Frankenstein. I fucking love that movie. It was so fun.
I'm so glad.
I love the tone of it. I love kind of all the performances. I thought it's Cole Sprouse, right? Is the one that's in
Yeah.
there. I thought he would talk more in the movie. He doesn't really, but I still think he does a really good job. And then Catherine Newton, like I've only seen her in Quantumania, so it was fun to see her in this, and I think she's outstanding. I love the visuals and the color of the movie. It was just such a fun time. It was very cheesy, very silly, but like it knew exactly what it was going for, and I feel like it just like 100% aced the assignment in that way. So yeah, that was a fun one that I'm really glad I finally caught up on. I remember you saying good things about it, Travis.
Yeah.
But even then, I still had my expectations kind of low for some reason because it
He
is
didn't
kind of.
trust me. Oh, Travis said some good things. He liked Sanctuary last year a lot. He liked Fair Play a lot. I don't know about
Yeah.
Frankenstein, No, I just remember because I remember when we talked on the newscast and the Discord was really hyped for that movie. And I was like, these trailers, I don't think they're looking the greatest. And then I remember when it came out, it felt like the Discord was kind of disappointed. But I dropped like a 5 out of 5 on that thing.
Yeah,
I'm not
hell yeah.
sure. Like, I thought like what they were doing, and it's like, it's not simple, but it is. And I was glad for her because I felt like after Ant-Man, she got dunked on a lot for that character. And it's like, I've seen her in things where she can be good. I
Yeah,
think
none of that is her fault. as an
Yes, so
actor.
that's where it's like, look, like if anybody is like, oh, I don't know about her when they talk about Young Avengers, it's like, look at Lisa Frankenstein. Like you just got to put her with good director, and she was good. I don't know if you've seen it, but Taylor says she was really good in Abigail this year too. She's very,
I haven't seen that one
She's
yet,
very,
no.
she's just a comedic relief character, but really fun in it. So I'm glad you dug that. I don't know if any of these two are gonna watch it to talk about Golden Geeks, but I would have it in some areas.
Yeah, I mean, it's been such a strong year that I
Yeah.
think for me, finding that top 5 is going to be difficult. But in terms of like throwing out noms for best, I feel like it's going to maybe be at least a shout out for me
Yeah.
there. And then probably Catherine Newton as well, just for that fun. But even then, looking at I've been looking at my notes for Golden Geeks, and there are a lot of like lead actress roles, like
Yeah.
a lot of strong ones this year. So that'll be a tough category for her, but it'll be fun nonetheless. And what's the actress, the mom's name again? I always forget her name. Is it
God, I forgot
Carly?
who played the mom?
Uh,
Carly Gugino. Yeah,
Yes,
her.
yes.
She's great.
She
yeah.
is so fun as the piece of shit stepmom character in that. Just totally nails it. And then lastly, I was hoping Kirkland would be here so that I could say this to both you, Travis, and Kirkland.
Oh.
But I finally watched Monkey Man. I've
Oh,
caught up
yeah, good.
on one of your favorites
Yeah.
of the year. I don't know if it's still one of your favorites because you just have so many strong ones this year. I'm sure
I
it's
think
still
it's
up
still
there.
in the top 10. It might be, but it's turning into 2022 where it was a very, very strong year. And I'm glad you watched that because Kirkland, it's number 8 right now, still right now. So and I think that was going to be Kirkland's pick. So he'll probably change it because, Taylor will have to see it, I guess, if we nominate for stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, I knew. I mean, I considered grabbing a ticket and going to see it in theaters, and just didn't happen. Whatever happened that week. So I'm glad I finally got around to it. And yeah, it was just super fun. It is like a very John Wick thing. There's even a joke in there. Like one of the guys like selling him a gun is like, this is the gun from John Wick, but like the Chinese version. And it's like, yeah, this is like John Wick, but the Indian version. So I feel like that joke was very on the nose in that way. But I think the biggest thing that stood out to me was like cinematography was fantastic in this. Like the fight scenes were so engaging. I feel like it's like any director who like overuses shaky cam, I want them to watch that movie and just like
I was worried
take
when
the
I was watching,
lesson.
like, oh, Dylan's not
for,
gonna like
the-
this.
no, the way the camera moves around,
Yeah.
it's like it's like a character. It's part of the scene, and it feels like the impact of the hits, and it feels like it's giving the power of the hits, but without just like crazy flinging the camera around. So really impressed by that. Of course, Dev, he's fantastic. I put him in
Yeah.
every fan cast we do. I throw him in some role, even if it doesn't make sense. So I'm a big fan of him, and yeah, overall, it was a really good time. I think some of the overarching story stuff of like the communities or society aspect maybe didn't work as well for me.
Gets
But
a
just
little
as
messy
like
at the end,
an
yeah.
action movie and like the individual personal tale, that stuff really worked. And the mythology, I really enjoyed the way that was kind of woven in there as well. And just some of the joke, like getting a rickshaw and throwing like nitros on it and they're flying through the city, and that was like such a fun little gimmick. So there was a lot of really good stuff in there. So yeah, really glad I finally watched that one. But yeah, been a good couple weeks here of watching movies.
Nice.
I really enjoyed a lot of stuff.
No, and you knocked out some ones that obviously it's still not till January, February, but you knocked out some ones that will probably be coming up later on in the year. So, Taylor, I feel like you're gonna enjoy Monkey Man whenever you get to it. I think it's on Prime now, so easy click of a button there.
Easy click.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
it's
think it is on
definitely
Prime. I think that's
something-
where I watched it.
Something that's on my radar, so I will ultimately have to watch it if you guys force my hand. So
Well, I don't think we will. I don't know if Kirkland's gonna do just.
What do you have against it, Taylor? What are you doing?
time.
That's fair. That's
shenanigans.
fair. Yeah. No, I don't know if he will. If all three of us, I feel like it might be a situation where if it gets nominated, you might have to watch it after the fact, like confirm for your voting. But I don't know if he's gonna. Maybe he feels he really wants you to watch it. But if all three of us have watched already, is he gonna put a Golden Geeks pick just on you, Taylor? You think you warrant just to use the whole pick?
Man,
on
it's a
you?
tricky one because I feel like it's a lock for some of the maybe non-best film categories, and maybe it has a chance in that best, but like just other categories, I think it's gonna just clean sweep or not
Yeah.
clean sweep, but it'll be in there for sure if we
Of
get
course,
the numbers.
yeah.
But at least we have 3 now, so should be
Yeah,
easier.
obviously, I think I'm being, don't be greedy, but I was kind of hoping I would have heard something by now, but like his next project, so I'm hoping it wasn't. Well, I don't think it will be one and done because it was critically acclaimed. I think it did all right at the box office. I think they were hoping it was going to be like a John Wick runaway hit, and I think it was just like a profitable movie. It didn't get that garner like that, but yeah, I really hope we hear news soon that he's doing something because it's like for a first time director, obviously he's got a bigger budget, but still, I really enjoyed it. So I'm glad you watched those. S-Bubs, about your Lisa Frankenstein. At the time, S-Bubs called it if Tim Burton made a good movie in 2024, but he redeemed himself later with the new Beetlejuice, which I kind of agree. It feels very updated Tim Burton.
I see that, yeah.
It feels like it's like if Tim Burton's daughter, which funny enough, it's Ron Williams' daughter that directed. And I'm same thing. I'm very excited to see what she does. I've not seen her other work. I think she's done like the Substance Director, like some short films. And I think there's maybe one other movie she's done. I want to go back, but same thing. I'm excited to see like more of her work and what she can do. And yeah, it's gonna be interesting. So Taylor Field, yes, Rhea, I am bald now. It is the path that I've chosen. But again, I tell people this: it's never been bald. In the winter, it's actually my favorite time because very easy for toque. Like right now, when I get cold, when I put this hood up, the heat just radiates, like it just stays in
Right.
here. So it's like a nice little heater. So no, I think
Well,
I'm gonna.
Travis, you say it's the path that you chose, but I think the people chose by
Right.
donating. Right?
They did choose, and a big thank you to everybody that did donate. So I'm happy I'm happy you did that. I'm gonna definitely rock it for a while. But Taylor, what have you been watching?
Oh, let's see. Pop out the old list here. So after the charity stream, I thought, okay, there's a few things that I need to just kind of like
Aquaman, Longlegs.
Aquaman,
Yeah,
Harry
we didn't
Potter
do it in the
marathon.
stream.
Yeah.
Blue Beetle.
Blue Beetle, yeah. No, we did Ready Player One. I had a big craving just to kind of get back into there, specifically just because I think my favorite arc of that film is the whole Shining sequence. I really
so
like it.
good.
It's so much fun. And especially like the end battle. Just every time I watch this movie, I spot different IPs that I just didn't notice before, and it's so much fun.
What did
They
you
just-
spot this time? What was the new?
The Cyclops from the Seventh Voyage of Sinbad. which is
Holy
just-
shit! That is a deep.
pull.
It's a deep cut. Yeah, I used to watch the movie as a little kid, and it's just like, oh, I can't believe they actually threw that in there.
That's
like,
wild.
So you
nuts,
prefer not to like YouTube and see them all. You just want to every time rewatch it, catch something new. That's what you
Yep.
want to do. Yeah, nice. I respect it.
That's a great way to experience it.
It's
Yeah.
a good time. But yeah, so that's a great movie. I'm looking forward to the sequel whenever they do that because they announced a sequel, didn't they?
For the book, I
I thought
don't.
they did for the movie.
Is the book? Is there already a sequel for the
Bubs.
book? Yeah.
Yeah, guy in the chair.
I don't
What do
think
you
you're
got?
gonna get the movie sequel. I don't think it did that well. I can take a look, but I think it's one of those same things. It did like profitable, but I don't think it was the same thing. Ready Player 2.
The
Okay.
sequel book came out in 2020, so that's fresh-ish. I mean, that's getting pretty old. At this
Okay,
point,
so it came
actually.
2 years after the movie, and the movie, let's see, had a budget of actually this did better than I thought. It had a budget of 150, 175, and they made 600 million. So no, much better than I thought it was gonna. So yeah, no, maybe I guess you could get one. I guess that's did well enough. So I need to give it a rewatch. I was really wanting to like it. I don't think I disliked it, but I do need to maybe give it one more shot just to see. So yeah.
After that, Thumbelina. That is a classic one. Just watch it growing up. Yeah, it's just.
So you can't
got
watch Monkey Man, but you're watching Thumbelina again. Ready Player One.
Madison is watching these with me, so there's another factor.
She would
along
love
with
Monkey
time.
Man.
She would love Monkey.
She might like. I bet she would actually like Lisa Frankenstein. There's some darker stuff, but it's
Yes.
like it's cutesy dark. It's in.
I'm getting around to that because I saw that was on Prime, so I'm tiptoeing.
Yeah.
I'm gonna probably like slap that on soon.
tiptoeing. What
Tiptoe.
digital tiptoeing? You know?
Digital tiptoe. And then last on my list here is Herbie Fully Loaded. This was a Madison pick. I was doing something, and then Madison was like, I'm gonna put this on, so she put it on, and then I sat down. I was like, holy shit, the cast is stacked. We got Justin Long, we got Michael Keaton, Lindsay Lohan. I'm like, holy fuck, we got a lot of big names in here.
Did you not know Lindsay Lohan was in there?
No,
okay.
I'd never seen this before.
Okay, that's fair.
yeah.
That was in that era of like she had Freaky Friday, that Confessions of a Shopaholic, and there's something. I think it's Confessions of a Shopaholic. There's another one in there missing that was bigger when she. Oh, Mean Girls, duh.
Mean Girls.
Fuck yeah, yeah. But she was on a run there for a little bit. So
Yeah. No, I'd never seen it before. I would not give points to it for story, really. I had fun just with the cast members and all that. So
was Justin Long the love interest?
yeah.
Of course he was. Yeah.
Nice.
Okay. I haven't actually think I've ever seen that movie. I was out because I have cars and all. So
Me and Madison were joking about how there's a scene where they're driving along this highway, and we're like, oh yeah, this is the scene where Justin Long drops off Lindsay Lohan and then gets the call in Barbarian.
maybe it's
Yeah,
the
I
same
love
character.
that continuity. That is good.
It could be. He doesn't die in Herbie, right? So maybe he goes on to watch that. Oh, I gotta
Yeah.
rewatch every Halloween. I'm like, I gotta rewatch Barbarian, and I have it on the back list, and I never do, but I gotta do it soon because I've been
It's great.
itching for it. But yeah, no, I haven't been doing too much because me and Emily have started to catch up on some stuff like Love Is Blind, like the U.S. edition, and then like The Circle, the last season we didn't watch. So we're catching up on a lot of stuff like that, and then obviously watching The Substance again for a second week. So I think I only have 3 things to shout out. Maybe is there? Okay, yeah. So just at the after Halloween, after the stream, finally watched Nightmare Before Christmas. Ellie from like pretty much months have been asking, but I'm like, oh, like that's a Halloween movie we can wait because it's like it's Halloween and Christmas, but it was a perfect like, okay, I'm tired, put this on, and I somehow stayed awake for that. So yeah, still good classic Night Before Christmas, great movie. And then I watched Terrifier 3. So I wanted to give this a go around because I've been talking about each week or each newscast that I've watched all of them now. I watched All Hallows Eve, and then I rewatched Terrifier 1 and 2. So this one, I was surprised by how much I like it because I always say that I respect the movies. I love what they're going for as far as the effects. They're hardworking, but like I've in the past, the Terrifier 1 and 2 are not. Like I would deem them good movies. I think I liked them both a little bit more on this rewatch once I knew what I was getting into. I think Terrifier 2 I can pass. Terrifier 1 is I don't know. I think there's a lot going on there. But with 3, no, it felt like a big upgrade. And I'll say like the opening shot. I think it's the opening scene or one of them. It's people have seen it in the trailers, but it's like Santa's in the house, but of course it's not Santa. It's Art the Clown as Santa. But the way they like take their time and they pace it, and it's this big build up to see Art, felt like the most, no pun intended, like artful thing they had ever done. Artful might be the bad word because they do some freaky stuff, but it felt like the most artistically well done thing I've ever seen. I was like, okay, of course they got a bigger budget now because the second one was like 250,000. This was 4 million, so of course that stuff helps. But this just felt in general all around. It's like, oh, they've elevated. So like those first 2, I gave like a 2.5, a 3 out of 5. This I gave a full 4. I really enjoyed it. Still some super gross stuff. Like it's like I say, it makes the Saw movies look kind of kiddish in a way. Like that's how bad this stuff. Like this one was rated X or NC-17 or whatever. So, but yeah, I'm excited for more. I'm happy that I actually really enjoyed one of these movies. I think I'll always watch them together if I do because I'll always say the thing is with these movies, the fucking Art the Clown character is phenomenal. Like even in these bad movies, like what I consider the first one not the greatest, like it's just fun to watch him in these situations. So there's that. And then the only other thing I watched this week was Super/Man, the Christopher Reeves story. Highly recommend. If you're a big fan of Superman, Christopher Reeve, obviously we're doing the retro on Patreon right now, so you could check out that and the Fantastic Four. Those are exclusive to Patreon. But yeah, like I don't know because Taylor, you didn't grow up with them, so you might not have the same reaction. But like I feel like just even as a human, you might watch this and well up. It's a good watch, but it's also a very tough watch with what that family goes through. Especially there's just things I didn't know about in that last year for those kids. It's like it's such a tough situation. But yeah, and I was kind of surprised how you think, okay, this is a legendary guy, was Superman, then he became, paraplegic. That might be the wrong term. I think that's right, but I think there's a different version he is, so I apologize for that. But you'd think that, okay, it's going to be like a shining story, and it is, but then they kind of just talk about at times where even his kids are like, yeah, in this era of his life, he was kind of like an asshole, like he was like not home that much. And I was very surprised, and there's other stuff too that once he was paralyzed, things he was trying to do that a community wasn't a fan of. So that's where I'm saying this in a way where it felt like the documentary wasn't just a puffy, which they could do because Christopher Reeve, first comic movie ever, you can, especially Superman's coming up, you can play that out. But I kind of respected that they showed like, okay, there was some times in his life where I won't say controversial figure, but maybe did things that people didn't enjoy. So I liked that, and it was. There's some heartbreaking stuff in there, but very, very well made. So I would say anybody that's a fan of Christopher Reeve or Superman, definitely check that out. It's a documentary worth watching. So, but yeah, that was it. That's kind of been it that much. I'll probably be watching some more movies soon. I'm hopefully going to try and see Anora this week because we did get Cineplex, not at Grand 10 because Grand 10's a bike right away. Cineplex is a little bit more of a pain, but I'm trying to figure it out. So. We'll see. Espo says the most I remember about Herbie Fully Loaded is that Disney World has a bunch of theme hotels around it, and one of them was Herbie themed, and I stayed there once as a kid. I wonder if it's still Herbie themed. I bet it's not Herbie themed anymore. As I would say, just because they're gutting everything from Disney, I feel like all that old, which
probably Cars themed now.
Yeah, there's my boomer take. I hate that stuff. There's all that stuff like when they took out Toon World. Like I get it, they got the IP and everything. I guess I just wish they did additional to found more space and just built, oh, here's your Star Wars, here's your Marvel. But I loved that stuff, and it sucks that when I go back, it's like, oh, it's not going to be that classic stuff. But
well, that's what they did with I think Splash Mountain has been rebranded as Princess. Is it Tiana, like Princess and the Frog, like her ride now? So
yeah,
yeah,
I get it, though. It's all business. Then finally, I suppose. But Terrifier says, doing it from the POV of the kid looking for Santa was a cool choice and evoked that feeling I look around the house as a kid. I agree. Great opening. Actually scary. And yeah, that's my point of just usually they make Art the Clown scary because it's look, he'll chop off your dick, that type of stuff. And they'll show it. They'll literally just in one movie, you just see him ripping off someone's penis, and it's just yeah, this guy is fucked up. That's why he's scary because he might hurt you. But this was the actual, he felt scary. I feel like you could have a rated R cut of the movie and actually be scared of Art this time, even though he's quite comedic. So, all right, let's take our first ad break and we'll be right back. And we are back. And Mario said, you're a new subscriber, said, are you guys a Mass Effect fan? Well, we will be talking about that a little bit. We got everything you want. We will be talking about in the show at some point. So it's up there. But let's talk.
To the right place.
Let's get you did. Let's get the anger part of the way for Taylor Field, because who knows how much there will be to talk about here. But so this came out today, and this is all Hollywood Reporter deadlines. This is top tier stuff. So Simon Kinberg, who I'll go over his credentials in a little bit, lots of hits, lots of misses, stuff he's wrote Days of Future Past. I would say that's a top 10 comic movie. He's wrote Dark Phoenix. He's that type of guy where you look at even for Taylor, he's he wrote one of those Sherlock movies you like, but then he wrote Fantastic Four, one of those, where is it here? I just got to hit it.
Say that again?
That's from his script.
That's his
right
writing.
There.
He wrote that word.
That's his writing. Yeah. Say that again. As Bob says, Broom's kid's going to be oh, something about Skywalker. Say that again. So I'll go over his credentials, but it was announced today that he's not producing, which a lot of his hits are more on the producing side. So I'm going to go over his writing credentials, but he is writing a trilogy. Now, this is the thing where it's not that it was misreported. It's some of these scoopers have heard this trilogy is episodes 10 to 12. And then some have heard, no, it's just a separate trilogy, but it sounds like it is taking place after episode 9. So it sounds like no matter what, it is a sequel going forward. I bet the confusion, what's the confusion? I bet the confusion with the scoopers is probably, I bet knowing Lucasfilm hasn't decided about what they're doing with this. I guarantee in some boardrooms it's been okay, it's probably labeled as episodes 10 and 12, but maybe but do we want to call them that? Because that obviously that's a huge legacy thing. So Taylor, obviously, so you can get your rant, but I want to get just your opinion of, let's say, because we put out a disclaimer last couple of weeks ago, right, when we talked about the Ray news, and I think all of us that were giving some hope, at least you and me, were like, okay, we're kind of done. We'll talk about these things, but as far as believing them, that was kind of like the last straw of it. I know you're going to rant on that, so you can take. I'm saying table that for a second. If this were to happen, do you like this idea, and do you have a preference between actually getting episodes that are 10 to 12, but not maybe a Ray and Finn coming back? It's new people. And they did say here, and here's my last point too. They said like characters could be involved in this. It's not just like a for sure, Ray is the lead of this movie because she has her own movie over there, right? So would you prefer a 10 to 12, or would you like, hey, it's a sequel that's going forward, that it's kind of, with our characters, not with our characters, but it's still not 10 to 12. So if it were to happen, that's what I'm asking you.
I just want something to happen at this point. That's all I really, really want. When this concept pops up of it being a whole new saga trilogy, I'm thinking, okay, like if they're doing 10 to 12, that tells me that it's Skywalker oriented, because that's what the saga is basically. It's always about Skywalkers, and of course then you incorporate Rey, I'm sure, because she's a Skywalker now. But it's just funny to think that we've come this far since 2019 being our last numeral Star Wars film, and we've had just 2 spin-offs before then, not after, before then, that are like standalone movies on their own. Of course, now before this trilogy, we're getting one, the Mando and Grogu one, which that's okay, that's fair. But it's hard to it's hard to get super, super stoked, but I'll save that for after. I like the idea of them doing a 10 to 12. I really, really do. But I just get scared of the story that we've had so far. And I feel like we haven't spent enough time kind of mining into the characters and the story and the lore that's been established for episodes 7 to 9. I feel like there's still a lot to explore there and haven't tapped into it a lot. So now that them already thinking like, hey, we're going to jump to this saga here with a new trilogy, it's like, well, like how far into the future are we going with that, and like what is there to really explore? It just makes me think, like, are you gonna just pop up a new Palpatine again? Like what do you do for this? Because the Sith aren't really a thing. But again, like, I'm excited, and if I were to be in the theater and I would see that Star Wars episode 10 like drop, I'd be like, oh man, those Roman numerals. I'd be like, oh, this is pretty cool. Like we're at 10 right now for
Star Wars X. It's
Star
gonna be a cool
Wars
poster, and they'll do lightsabers for some poster, right? Like, there's a lot of
man.
cool things they could do with Star Wars X.
Yeah. So I at the end of the day, I'm excited for any Star Wars that we can get in the theater.
All right. And then how did you feel? Sorry, I was bad. I forgot to bring up the credentials of the actual writer, because it supposedly, which I guess could be a good sign as far as maybe having one writer, because obviously with 7, 8, and 9, it bounced around a lot. So even with this guy's credentials, it's kind of like, well, at least it's one guy, but here's everything he's written. So as of recently, Mr. and Mrs. Smith, which is getting Emmy nominations, so that's good. The 355, never saw it, but I heard it's not good. You have Dark Phoenix in there, but then you got Star Wars Rebels. He wrote 74 episodes, so obviously, big fan there. Then he has Apocalypse, X-Men Apocalypse, Fantastic, Days of Future Past, and then This Means War, that Chris Pine, Tom Hardy, Reese Witherspoon spy movie. I'm not sure if you guys ever seen that.
Fun.
Okay, it's fun for Taylor. Sherlock Holmes, Jumper, X-Men: The Last Stand.
Which Sherlock Holmes?
The first. So there you go. The Mr. and Mrs. Smith, the movie, and then XXX State of the Union with William Dafoe and Ice Cube. So that's his writing credentials, because a lot of people, and even in the articles, they'll bring up like, oh, he produced The Martian, he produced Logan, he produced Days of Future Past, or he produced like Deadpool and Wolverine. But it's like, that still can be a big thing. I'm not saying producers aren't vital. They are, but that's not what he's announced
Big
to
Dan
do
Lin.
here. Yeah, Big Dan Lin, right?
So what he wrote 70-something episodes of Rebels. How much? What would be like? What's the rough percentage of overall Rebels then, if he wrote 70 episodes of that?
I can find out.
Oh gosh, over 4 seasons.
So he probably wrote most of it. Sounds
yeah,
like.
each season's probably like 20 episodes.
Since there's 75, I do wonder. Let's see. Created by. Let's see. It says 74. I'm not. Yeah, I don't know. It doesn't maybe specify, but it sounds like he wrote. Like he was a part of the majority of that production.
How's
So
the writing of that?
I
far as Star Wars
prefer
goes?
Rebels to Clone Wars. I don't think Taylor will agree, but I think it's good, but it's also in the guise of like it still has to be kiddie sometimes, right? So it's kind of tough. But
Yeah.
Taylor,
Sorry,
not,
so-
not happy with the Rebels writer apparently. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm a Clone Wars guy over Rebels for sure, but I mean, everyone's kind of got their pick of what they like over the other, which is totally fair. You don't hear people talk about Resistance that much. It's usually just Rebels or Clone Wars.
There's no Resistance heads out there.
No. Yeah, so this guy has, I mean, he's done some stuff that I actually really, really like. I like that Sherlock Holmes movie quite a bit. And yeah, the Mr. and Mrs. Smith show, that's actually, there's some good stuff in there too. Me and Madison watched
Did you
a little
like
bit
it?
of
You
that.
never talked about that. So
Honestly, it went over my head to actually talk about it. So, and but yeah, it's not bad. We haven't finished it yet. But then you have those other movies that he's done, like Apocalypse and
Dark Phoenix.
Dark Phoenix, not Day of the Future
Fanforstic.
Past, unfortunately, and Fanforstic, which we just stretchered. So, it's 50-50, but I mean, a lot of people like Rebels. Rebels is a very highly praised show, and if he's been super well immersed in that and has worked with Filoni and has been creating that story, then I think that, okay, there is definitely a strong resume here. He's familiar with the world and he's familiar with what needs to be done, and it's, you know, I'd give him the benefit of the doubt. With that being said, so if he was going in blind, didn't have any of that pre-existing Star Wars experience, then I would be a little bit more apprehensive. But I kind of like this, and I like the idea that he is familiar with the universe. So we'll see how that goes. Should I rant?
No, we'll
or-
come back. We'll come back. We'll give you a little break there before that happens. Should I rant? So Dylan,
You know
I
it's going to be bad if he has to ask permission before he goes into a rant, because that's going to be just a different level.
So no, I know, Dylan, you've been out on Star Wars, but if this were to be the official, like, hey, 10 to 12, this is the sequel to the classics, the prequels, and the very mixed sequels. Where are you on that? Does that get you excited, thinking, oh man, I don't think you ever be like, oh man, but like okay, they maybe got to take this a bit
I
more.
don't know. I loved Outlaws, right? So I'm open to it. If you
Yeah.
throw a good Star Wars thing in front of me, and like I'm into it. But I mean, here's the thing: there's two sides to this. Where one is they can't get anything off the ground movie wise right now. Obviously, Mando's.
Yeah.
That one seems like it's actually happening, so we're finally seeing something there. But there's been so many things announced and canceled, and people switching around and this and that. And so to me, it's like, oh, okay, is the best idea to confirm a trilogy and that to be your next idea? If you can't even get one movie to happen, is
They haven't
establishing-
confirmed this yet, but it's happening. Like, it's the high end scoopers have got it, but they didn't put out a press release being like, we're for sure doing this.
I'm
but-
aware. I'm just saying that,
Okay,
like, if
just
that's the route
make
they're
sure.
going, like,
Yeah.
that's a lot to sign up for. And I think, to your point, I think picking one writer rather than giving each one to someone different for a trilogy is not a great idea. And we saw how messy that made the sequel trilogy and all that. As we went through his career there, I think he's a perfect pick. Like, yeah, he's got some stinkers in there, but like most directors or writers do have some in there, unless they like only do very few things, or even like some of the best, like, have a couple in there that don't work for people. But like, he's done the big blockbuster movie stuff. He's done a shit ton of Star Wars, so he seems like a fantastic pick for me. And if he wants to do the whole trilogy and they can lock in on that, I think that's a good idea too. So from one angle, it's like, okay, is signing up for 3 movies a good idea? Maybe not, because they can't even get one to happen. But at the same time, the whole movie, the whole Star Wars and everything it's based off of, and like where the bread and butter is for movies is with the trilogy format. They did a couple spin-offs, and Mando is happening as well. But for the most part, that's kind of where these movies exist. That's where the structure of it is. That's how they try and build it up. And I'm sure that when they're writing especially with the case with episode 7, they didn't know what was going to happen in 9. Maybe
No.
they had a few like things
JJ
they were
ran out,
aiming
but he
for, but
dipped.
yeah, because of how many people were different cooks in the kitchen there. And then a lot of the Star Wars, like the other stuff too, with going back to the George Lucas era and whatnot. I'm sure he didn't plan every little detail before they started shooting the first one or whatever. So yeah, I don't know. I think there's kind of a mixed bag here, but of course, like at the end of the day, my default stance here, my posture is great skepticism, because I don't know why this one would be any more legit than the other ones that seemed very legit when they were announced at the time. So I mean, I don't know if they've scrapped everything, which it seems like they have. We've got a lot of info recently about things that are officially canceled, but there are still a lot of things in limbo. I don't know. It seems like they have a decent recipe here, but also we only have a writer. Like, you need a lot more than that for these things to happen. So
Mm-hmm.
we'll see what happens. It's unlikely, but if it does, yeah, I think they have a decent recipe going for them.
Yeah, I think there's a couple angles where the only reason I wanted to mention the why it hasn't officially been announced is I do think if they were to ever announce this officially and say it's 10 to 12, I know this sounds stupid for me to say, but I would say it's for sure happening because I feel like that's like I can't say sacred thing because that sounds strange because like I see Kevin Davis says Disney Stars isn't bad at all. That's where it's like, well, for me episode 9 there's lots of issues and there's other stuff, right? So it's like I don't consider
I mean,
it
it isn't
sacred.
all bad, but we can't
No,
just say
of
that
course,
blank
yeah.
slate. It's all good, Kevin.
And I
come
think
on.
Kevin, because you might be newer, I think if you listen to most of our stuff, I think we're more positive than we are negative. I've only failed, I think, 3 Star Wars things out of the Disney era, which would have been Acolyte, Boba, and then Mando 3. Even Mando 3, I might have passed that, but those other 2, Boba and Acolyte, those are definitely bad for me. Those are some bad stuff. But I think if they ever put pen to paper and it's Star Wars Celebration, whatever, and they say, yeah, we're doing 10 to 12, I feel like they have to because that's kind of a Star Wars and the episodes are known as, like, they're legendary things, right? Even those last 3 doesn't matter. They all made $1 billion. They're a big deal, and I think that does raise some hype. And I think for me, that's what I need is the clarification. But all I hope is that they have a writer. I hope they never once say anything about this in public until it's like done. Like, and I mean, like they're good to go. Not this, hey, we got someone writing these 3 movies, but they're still writing them. It's like that's great that these rumors are out there, or even just if they're high tier scoops. But it's just like I don't want it to be a situation like we're doing with the Rey movie or the other stuff where it gets caught in limbo, right? Like, don't say anything until you're good to go. I'm not saying you'd have everybody cast. No, you don't have to do that. But like, at least writer, we like these scripts. Let's find a director. We like them. Producers. Okay, let's start casting. Boom, good to go, right? So the other thing for me is it's interesting because if you look at episodes 1 to 3 and then 4 to 6, they all have the same characters or themes, but they've never had the same leads. So that's what puts a very interesting predicament with the Rey situation. Because my knee-jerk reaction is like, well, I'm disappointed if Rey's not the lead of these because she's around. And like with 4 to 6, they did them so long that the original cast was older. The prequels, those were characters in the past, so they were kids or not even born yet. The original actors in the timeline. But this is the first time where if you're doing a episode 10, you have an actress who's even better than she was when she started. I think majority of people, even if they did not like those movies, even if they had issues with the Rey character, they like Daisy Ridley, and we hopefully welcome her to come back. I think people want to see that. So for me, if they say, hey, this is a trilogy that's just off in the distance, but it's still after 9, then I'm fine if Rey's not in it or even the lead. If they do say it's 10 to 12 and Rey's not the lead, that will rub me the wrong way a little bit. It will feel kind of odd, especially if there's Jedis around. And now I know someone might say like, oh, well, Rey's getting her own movie. It's like, well, is she? Like that's where it's like, again, if that's for sure, if it's a perfect world, right? And Kathy sits me down, she's like, I bet on my life that, next year we'll be in production of both these things. And they were to come out, then I'd say, okay, they're doing this Star Wars episode 10 without Rey. That's kind of odd, but then she's doing her own movie. Okay, that's fine. Or are they going to take like an Avengers approach now where episode 10 is going to be like, hey, Rey has her own movie. She's going to be in 10, but she won't be a main character, be ensemble. Like, I don't know, because I still would want to see some of those characters back. So it's interesting. Or I just wonder, is there a case where that Rey movie dies and some stuff just gets folded into this? Like they're in such a topsy-turvy type of mode. So I feel like, and with the writer, I don't know. I'd have to hear the pitch. I don't know how I feel about them doing an episode 10 for sure. I think there might be one reason. It might just be the almighty dollar, where I think you throw episode 10, I think that's like a guaranteed almost $1 billion movie. The 11, 12, that all depends on 10, but I think 10 just gets that marketing. And like I said, you see the episode X and you see the lightsabers cross. Like there's so much stuff they could do and talk about. It's the sequel of a new saga and all this stuff. Like I think that still brings that excitement, and that's the easiest thing for like our parents or GA people to jump on. Of like, oh, like a Mando movie. I haven't watched the show. It's like, oh, what other ones have they talked about? Like, oh, James Mangold making the first Jedi movie. Like, oh, that's kind of weird. Like, it's 10,000 years. Like, I don't know about that. But if it's Star Wars Episode 10, everyone knows what that is, right? And it's like, oh, well, I've been following the story. They're not paying attention when they're like, this end of the Skywalker in Episode 9. No one cares. They could have Rey Skywalker and 10 other Skywalkers, and the GA would be like, oh, I'm happy that Star Wars is back. Like, to me, I know people don't like to hear this, but like, Star Wars and the Skywalkers are just pretty much the same thing. It's just like the words are a bit different, but people associate those two things. So yeah, I wish there was a better writer attached. It is very hit or miss, but at the same time, I think it's probably someone that works well in their system, right? And at least has worked with big blockbuster things. And that's what I said in the Discord, that I hope he just, if there's like a substance juice lying around that has his skills from Days of Future Past, I hope he's overdosing on that, because I love Dolph, but I don't. There's also a lot of misses on there, and it's a big. And that's where another thing too. If they say, my last point, if they say, hey, it's just a new trilogy like the Rian Johnson trilogy, then there's less pressure on it. But if you tell me, hey, this is episode 10, that's where it's like, okay, you guys better come loaded, because that last trilogy, there's things I love in it, and I think it's a lot better than people give it credit for. Obviously, it got very messy, but at the same time, this is kind of like your mulligan, right? We're gonna run it back. We're gonna try again, even though we said episode 9 was the end. We're gonna try and do the saga or a new saga again, and that's where I'm a little less confident on him. So, and Kevin Day says Kathleen Kennedy isn't going anywhere, or ain't going nowhere as the president of Lucasfilm, no matter what the audience wants. I won't say for sure, because here's the scenario, Kevin. If let's say this is episode 10, it comes out and it fucking tanks critically and money, I think then she'll be on her way out. But I think, again, as I've said this before, Kathy will never be fired. She will retire, quotation marks, and be gone. But I do think that these next few movies have a lot to do with what's next for her career, and if they hit. And if they don't, no, because Star Wars has been a mess. Indiana Jones lost them a lot of money last year, and she spent, she was the main producer on that. So but yeah, Taya, where's your rant now with this?
Oh my goodness, it's just at this stage of the game, like, what's going on over there? I really, really don't get it. And we were talking about this in the Discord earlier, where it's probably everyone is just pitching all these ideas to her. And, she's cashing in these checks, and she's just green-lighting all these different things. But then you don't deliver on them. Yes. Now, we talked about, you have, like, again, 1, 2, 3 successes.
Semantics. This is not green lights in development. Just to play semantics, but...
This trilogy, yes, I'll give you that. But there's other projects too. Like, they put out like a little sizzle reel for Patty Jenkins doing Rogue Squadron, and then we're gonna bring Rey or Daisy Ridley out on stage and announce, like, here's like 3 new logos for the new Star Wars, like 3 standalone films we're doing, and all this different stuff. And here's a new timeline, all this era stuff, and yada yada yada. Like, it just is mind-boggling that she's getting away with doing all this shit, like all these announcements and these I don't understand. I don't understand how you can keep doing that. And yes, you have a couple wins under your hat. You've put out and you've given the stamp of approval on, Mandalorian, season 1, 2, 3, and all these other shows that they've done too, which are great. They're little victories. But that one show and that one victory does not give you a full year's worth of benefit to go and cash the check in and just like sit down and pat yourself on the shoulder. Like, I feel like you need to keep on producing and delivering and working as a team, because I think that she has all these ideas coming to her, but she needs to stop losing writers on this shit. It's brutal. And the fact that Rey just lost her movie's writer like a couple last month actually is just horrendous. Now, I understand you mentioned too that maybe this is just what it's evolving into. They're working on the thing. Okay, you know what? Let's just do a new trilogy. Let's get Rey in there, and we'll just have things kind of go. And maybe that's why the writer left, because that's just where things went. Maybe she's in the not the throne room. She's in her fucking office, and she's got all these other.
That's where she's spending the money. She's making
that's
her
where
own.
She's spending the money on her own throne room. She's got all these suits in there, the shareholders, and they're like, Kathy, we need to make some fucking money here. My checks are running low. And so she's like, okay, well, you know what? My checks are running low.
You promised us with Indiana Jones. I just to correct you, I don't think Mandalorian counts as a little win, in my opinion. Mandalorian, it was a big win that helped launch Disney Plus. Grogu, the money on that.
That was a good win. That was I'll give you that.
Also big wins. Next to Loki, the most.
When I say little wins, I mean like once a year. Like that is in my interpretation of a little win.
Well, I guess
you gotta
if you just put out one
hitters.
project, like the year that Mando came out, like other than Rise of Sky, well, even then, Rise of Skywalker came out, made $1 billion, and then Mando came out. So like, for the two
that's
things
great.
you put out
That's
the
great.
year,
But then
they're
where'd
2
the
for 2.
steam go? Where'd the steam go after that?
They're making a movie that you and is it you and Dylan think it's gonna be $1 billion, or is it
gonna
Dylan
be.
and Kirkland?
1B.
Right? You guys say Taylor, you're on the bandwagon, right? In the
The
pizza
Mando
bet?
movie,
Yeah,
Pizza Bet. Oh, I don't remember which side I'm on.
I'll pull it up. But if
You're on Team 1 Bill, I think.
I might be on Team
I
One
think so.
Bill.
So that's where the steam's going. It's going to $1 billion movie.
All I'm saying is that when you go through all the announced projects and all
You
the,
are. I checked.
the-
You are.
I am okay. Good. I'm proud of that. I think that when you look at where we're at now, all of the cancellations, all of the failed promises, and all of the back and forth and misdirections, that's what I'm sick and tired of. And I don't like having an indecisive, incompetent, check cashing lady up there who's just like. It's just she's
Incompetent might be too harsh a word. You know?
She's bothering me because I feel like she needs to be focused on just not being so indecisive. You have people presenting you with all these ideas, and sure, you know what, that sounds great. Let's do it. Let's do an announcement, yada, yada, yada. And then you have that, and then it's like, oh, we're not going to go through with that. We're just going to move along to something else. And it loses its steam, and I really hate that. I don't like these false, empty promises. It's not great. Now, yes, there are the odd little ones that we do get, like, Mando and Obi-Wan and stuff like that are very successful, and they're great and whatnot. But even you said there's stuff in Mando Season 2, stuff in Mando Season 3, Book of Boba Fett, so
no,
there
not
are other
two.
things.
Don't give me that. Two's almost perfect season.
Two's almost perfect
Don't
season?
don't try to throw me under the bus there. Yeah, that's when Mando had the heat. It's not until season 3 when they're bringing Lizzo and Jack Black, and I'm like, what's going on with Star Wars here? Like that's not stuff I need going on here. So, but I hope it's also what Dylan alluded to though, like because they canceled Acolyte. I know people don't like that they canceled, but still, that's the hope is. Maybe it is a sign of. I guess I'm not going to talk myself into that. I'm saying maybe it's a sign of change. I guess I just can't believe it till I actually see it. But that's the thing. If one of these films comes out and hits $1 billion, like that's why I do think if Mando hits $1 billion, she won't go anywhere because you can write off that.
No, she won't.
Steam,
She is not going anywhere, and that's exactly right. They'll attribute it as her success, and yes, she approved it, yada yada yada, and everything's
did,
hunky
though.
dory.
She
and
did,
she
though,
did.
right?
She
That's the
absolutely
thing.
did. She absolutely did. But
Yeah.
it's
Andor,
still
another
like
big little win, Taylor.
That's right. That's right.
Not for the shareholders though. They were mad at that one, I think, right?
Yeah, it doesn't. It's not the biggest viewership
because they
wise,
released that on outside of Disney Plus too, didn't they? On
Yeah, they
other
did.
streaming
But
platforms.
they
so
got their Emmys and stuff like that.
it bothers me how you can have someone in a position of power who can needs to be a leader, steer the ship, and kind of pave the way forward to help provide and deliver and support the team. But if you're dropping writers and directors like this, that's not a sign of good leadership. In my opinion, I read this quote today. It was a really good quote. It's like people don't quit jobs; they quit bosses. I thought, you know what? There's probably a lot of truth to that because, I mean, if you're dealing with bad leadership, which I'm sure Disney is probably riddled with some pretty bad leaders, seeing especially with Inside Out 2 and how a few other bad practices are kind of
I think all these
executed.
studios have that, unfortunately.
What happened with
you know?
Inside
Yeah.
Out 2? I don't know if I heard that. Crunch or something?
You'd have to pull it up, but it's similar to video game animator stuff, where very bad environments for the animators to be
Gotcha.
working in. Lots of
The classic. In the
yeah,
movie
lots of
industry.
mistreating them and making them work all these hours. I think the pro was like, well, they got paid for it, but it was like this like, terrible working environments and stuff. And that's where probably most of these companies, like, that's where I give my hope of like the Neons and the A24s that are those smaller companies that can hopefully try to be that way, because it's not this big, like, you got to hit this 5 billion thing, or someone's getting punished or laid off. But
I defer to Marvel. They set that goal. They set that standard of what they were going to build towards, right? And it was a long journey getting towards the end game. And I think, okay, like if I think that's what Star Wars needs at this point. I think they need to have something that they're building towards. And Mando and Grogu, they as you said, season 3 and Book of Boba Fett, they definitely hit some murky ground, but they've built towards it. And I think that's why I think the movie's going to do $1 billion, because they've established this little mini universe and they've built all these connections and relationships to these characters. And so I think that's where we could really have it pay off. And I think that's what they need to do on a little bit of a larger scale. That's why, in my opinion, these sagas, these trilogies tend to do well, because you're building towards something climactic. Of course, it doesn't mean that it's necessarily going to be executed in the best of ways, because the last trilogy, it's definitely a little messy, but you have some gold in there for sure. So I think that's what they got to do here. I think they need to come up with not their end game, maybe their Infinity War, something big that they can kind of be striving towards, and then work at that and just build towards it. Do like one movie here and then wait 2 years. Okay, we got the sequel, another 2 years, and then bam, we got like the finale here or something like that. So just something consistent and cohesive. Because when you're thinking, oh, we're going to do the Lando show, we're going to do the Solo movie, we're going to do Rogue One, and yada, yada, yada. Then, while some of those may be bangers, you definitely do have some that are, I don't know, it's a one-off. And it's tricky because if you're trying to tell this story with this character in an hour and a half, then you can damage it like they did with Han Solo by throwing, again, Maul into that story at the end and all this stuff, and having characters that'll never be seen again unless it's like a comic book or whatnot. So I think that it's just, you do a few movies building towards one climactic situation or event, you get the time with the characters, you get to build the relationship, and you get to build the popularity and the excitement a little bit more than just announcing all these random things, which Star Wars should be able to do, but that ship has kind of sailed, I guess. But
Yeah, I just don't know if it can work like that, like the way you're describing about the one big event thing. Because like I feel like then it does have to be 10 and 12, and then it's like, well, then are you just stuck making 13, 14, 15? Because I just don't. I know like they're both fictional, but it feels something different when it's like with Marvel, I guess, because there's multiverse and comic book stuff, and there's all these stories where it's like, okay, I can believe, okay, after Thanos is Doctor Doom, and after Doctor Doom it's Magneto, all this, but it's just. It's like even that last trilogy went back to Palpatine. It's like how many more like galaxy taking over big threats can we like? What can we build up to again? Like that's the problem with Star Wars. The biggest thing already happened, and it happened in '83. You know, like that's the thing where it's like it's tough to. I'm not saying remake or reboot it. I think one day they will probably remake Star Wars, but I think that's when we're in our elder years, when like that generation's almost died off, and like, you know what, let's cast a new Luke Skywalker, let's cast a new Leia and change it up a little bit. I think it will happen, but yeah, I don't know. But again, who knows if this will even happen? Because at the same time, what Mike was saying here, I'll probably end this off here. It says, you guys think that they're very worried about releasing Star Wars movie that makes under $1 billion after so long? I think it's a little bit of that. I think one, you should not. I know that's probably what they all think, and that's the mindset of it. I would imagine they should try and put themselves in a position where the movie doesn't have to make $1 billion. I think that's a terrible goalpost to have. I get it, Rogue One and the trilogy, but just make it that you can be profitable and don't have to worry about like that should not be the norm. Like if we put out Mando and it's not $1 billion, that's a failure. You know, granted, we don't know what the box office would be, but it shouldn't be that. But I think it's also just the reception, because I feel like they from Solo, Last Jedi, and Episode 9, and even some of the TV show, I think for some reason they're the most like scared big company. I think they're just so worried. Like look at Rian Johnson. They right before Last Jedi, the scenario was he directs Last Jedi. They loved it before it came out. They loved it so much they gave him his own trilogy. That movie went on to make $1 billion. In theory, you should be like, well, that man should still get a trilogy because he made us $1 billion, right? But because I think for them it is more the reception than the actual money. I think the money, of course, is always important, but I think they're just so scared about like, oh, what if these people don't like it? What if this fan base? It's like you just kind of have to go. Like just pick something and go, and if it doesn't work, then move on to the next thing. Go, okay, that didn't work. Move on from there. And I think it's just.
That's what they did with Acolyte, basically. They picked it, it didn't work, so they moved on from there, right?
And that to me hopefully shows some sort of not we have to stick with this. Now, like I said, I think if you announce we're doing a sequel trilogy, you kind of have to stick with that. That'd feel very odd for Star Wars to put out Episode 10, doesn't work, and they go, well, I guess you're not going to get Episode 11 and 12. Like I would feel that's something you have to fully commit to, and again, maybe it'll be successful, but that's where I'm hoping it's not 10 right now. Maybe if I think we're on a winning streak, I would, but I don't know. 10 is it's risky. So
I wish that, you know, Acolyte was done a little bit better because that could have paved the way to something if they did a season 2, and then all of a sudden we're getting a High Republic movie with some crazy shit going on there in the theaters. Like that would have just been a very cool dynamic, but unfortunately, that I think that era has been killed for live action.
Yeah. Well, let's take our next ad break and we'll move on. And hopefully something happens. We'll see what happens come. I think Star Wars Celebration is next year, so maybe we'll get some updates. But really, it doesn't matter till they're rolling cameras. We know this. It's like whatever updates happen, it's all kaput until then. But let's take another ad break. And we're back. So if you didn't want to get that ad break, you could join Patreon right now and get every single episode we do ad-free, early. Get exclusive episodes depending on what tier you're on. There's Bread and Butter, which is our monthly topic show. We have the Fantastic Four retrospective and the Superman retrospective. We're reviewing every single film in those franchises before those movies come in July. They're releasing monthly, but if you're a Patreon producer, you get all those episodes early as well. So that's always a good perk. As we just talked about too, you can pick a movie, game, whatever, something for us to review. That's always fun. You can join After 9, which will be back in a couple weeks. And then another thing is at any tier, you can send in questions, which I forgot to do at the beginning. So we're going to do right now. I'm going to start off with Sam. He said, "What's your hype level for Heretic? I can't wait." I think that because we're all here, I don't know how high it is. I am excited to see it once it's streaming. I think the movie looks good. There's too many things to pick. And like I said at the beginning, I have to try and find a time to see Anor, and that's taking the precedence. But I don't know. It's like a 7 out of 10 for hype levels.
Yeah, I'm same. I'd watch that one at home, of course.
Mm-hmm.
I love a movie where people are stuck in a creepy guy's house. You know,
Yes.
it's a classic. It's a back to formula that I'll take any day of the week. So
Yeah.
I'm into it. I like the performance from the guy that I can't remember his name, but I think
Grant.
yes, and then the two other people. I'm not sure what their names are, but I don't know. It looks fun. I'm into it, so I'll definitely check that one out at some point.
Taylor, I thought this one might be one you were sneaking away to.
Yeah, this is one. Man, November is a booked month,
Stacked,
and to get like just between movies and birthdays and stuff like that. I'm limited on sitter time. You know, that's bank
Yes.
time, and this is one I really, really wanted to see, but I got to choose the time properly. I wanted to take Madison to see this really, really badly because I keep seeing trailers pop up, and I'm thinking, man, this just looks like a really enticing story. I want to know what's going on here. So it'll probably be one that we don't get around to seeing until probably when it comes out on DVD, not DVD, when it comes out on streaming. So
DVDs.
Steel case on that one. Yeah.
Other than The Big Short, what's the last time Madison brought you to a movie?
when Madison brought me to a movie,
Yeah, other than The Big Short, because you're like, oh, this is one I really want to bring her to, and I feel like I hear a
just
lot
The
of
Big
story.
Short, I'm always bringing her to the movies. She's
Okay.
The Big Short, I think, is probably like the only movie she's actually brought me to.
And she just really likes The Big Short. Like, I'm
You know,
surprised. Didn't strike me as a Madison.
we're gonna
movie.
have to ask her. I'll have to ask her because I don't know. But for my birthday this year, I think we're gonna be doing. If coincidentally enough, Back to the Future is playing at Bernie's, and I'm thinking, you know what, I'd love to see that. So that might be what we.
Last year,
pull
you
out.
thought you were seeing Napoleon, and you saw The Big Short. So
I know that backfired.
I don't know about that, but yeah. So maybe you'll get our thoughts on it at some point. Let's see. Dalton Toller asks, when's the Daredevil retro happening? The plan is, hopefully, I mean, I have it on the calendars, but the plan is for Taylor and Kirkland to review this every month. So it would start December. So you'll get episode December, February, December, January, February. Jumped a month there because it does release in March. So even if it's December 31st, you should expect an episode. And if not, then I expect you can badger Taylor and Kirkland in the Discord all you want. I'll give you their phone numbers. You can text them because they've been talking about this retro for like 3 years. So it should be by December. You should be getting the first episode. Taylor, you started watching it yet?
No, but I will be. I've been gearing myself up to start popping on.
You had to watch
Mickey.
Herbie, Travis.
Yeah. How do you watch it? Yeah. And how do you gear yourself up to watch it?
Everyone else has gone to bed, and I can just put it on.
But that's
So you
that's
get
not
out the billy
gearing.
clubs in your living room
Yeah.
and kind of swing them around a little bit.
Like making some sleep potion or something like that. Two questions that were in Patreon, but I'll ask them right now. Kim Day says, when do you think you'll get Ahsoka Season 2? I think that's coming 2026. I think we're far off there. And then Kim Davis asks, do you think Gladiator 2 and Wicked are going to make money at the box office? And surprisingly, I
Wicked,
don't.
yes.
I think Gladiator 2. I think they're both. I think Wicked's like tracking at like 100 plus, and I think Gladiators are tracking at like 65. And if I'm going by, I did not think it would happen, but if I'm going by Barbenheimer, which looks like this could be like, I'll say a Binny version. I don't think these films are going to be as big, but if it's similar to that, those films did better than projected. So, yeah, I was surprised by them both because I wasn't sure if people would care about Gladiator again without Russell Crowe, and I didn't know if people would care about Wicked and the musical element, even though I don't think they show it that much. So I'm surprised, but supposedly they are tracking well, so I think they're going to make money. So
Same. Yeah.
and I'm happy because I have Wicked, and if Wicked can do well, that's the final nail in the coffin for Mr. Muss here. If Wicked bombs, that's where I'm a little iffy, you know. So Superbad Mike, he's excited for Wicked Hater. Yeah, he's doing the double feature, so happy. And last one there, do you think Moana 2 will make $1 billion? It's tracking more than Inside Out. I think so because it's so close to Christmas. I think that's a big. I know Lion King's out, but I just feel like. Am I wrong in the scenario? Do you guys think if families walk out and you got Lion King playing and Moana 2 playing? I just feel like, did you do Moana 2?
It's not Lion King though. It's like Mufasa,
I know,
the lion
right? Yeah.
story. Like no one cares about that. So
And that's what I mean. I just feel like they go, Moana 2. Like, I like The Rock. I like the first one. I just feel like that's the easy one. It's either Moana 2 or Nosferatu, you know?
I don't think Moana's gonna do $1 billion though. I think it's gonna
Oh, really?
underperform a little bit. Yeah,
Okay.
not tremendously, but
Yeah.
it's not gonna have the juice of the first one.
Okay. Taylor?
Oh, Moana. Yeah, I feel like there hasn't been an excessive amount of hype for it.
Are you guys not seeing the Discord? It has better pre-sales than Inside Out 2, and that's the biggest anime movie of all time. Like, I think it's...
I missed that in Discord.
I think it's cooking. That hype. I just think you're not around the 6 and 7 year olds. My kids are. Getting
I'm
hyped.
not. That is true.
That's true. Yeah.
Except for on Halloween, I was walking around the streets and they were everywhere. But
You gotta
They're
ask
all
about Moana
talking
2
about
next year. Ask about Moana 2. Did you
I
see
should
Moana
have.
2?
Yeah, should have.
$1 billion, Taylor, because this is free range. Because none of us got
It'll
to
make
draft
$1 billion. It'll make $1 billion.
Goddamn
I should have
bastards.
drafted it. Fuck.
Well, we couldn't. It wasn't a movie when we did the draft. Remember, it was a Disney Plus thing, and then they turned it into a movie.
Oh, those fuckers, eh?
Yeah, so we didn't get that. Yeah, so let's see here. And then, Mike, we're going to answer your question after with the Mass Effect stuff. And then Dalton Torres' last question, a question I'm sure you've all answered a lot of times, but I haven't heard what's the GeekVerse origin. So we can give a truncated version. Taylor, let's see if you can explain it.
Taylor was enthused when this popped up in our chat.
Yeah, he's like, I love a GeekVerse
I
origin. But yeah,
love a
how do we all
GeekVerse
mean?
origin.
How did GeekVerse happen? Let's see if what he gets wrong.
Oh,
Do you
yeah,
remember
can
how you
quiz
met
me.
us, Taylor?
I remember meeting you in the back room of Target. I remember meeting.
Is
Which
it
was
called
the
the
name of the
warehouse?
warehouse, not like some secret sex room.
Dylan's back room.
I remember you invited me over to play a small little Smash tourney you had to celebrate on the Wii U, the new Smash.
Good times.
At your
Yeah.
place. Yeah, that was pretty cool. I remember meeting Travis. I think this was when Target was announced that things were going to start winding down. I talked to you the odd time through presentation, but I think when things were winding down, I remember we were all in one of the aisles. I think it was maybe near the towel section, and we were talking about movies and comic books, stuff like that. I think Spider-Man 3 was up for discussion there.
Yes.
Yeah, great time.
It was you, me, and Kirkland, because Kirkland only worked at that point like maybe once, twice a week. Like he was very casual, but I think you guys were you were very close to the electronics section because that's where I worked at the time. Was
Yeah.
electronics. Yes.
Yeah.
So I
And
think
that's-
how
yeah,
movies
that's-
came up.
That's where I met Kirkland too, because he started on Flow Team in the back, and I remember Vance set me up to work in the.
To be clear, we all worked at Target. I don't think
We
we've
all
ever
worked
said
at
that. We all
Target
worked at
Canada
Target
when it existed
Yes.
for
Yeah.
about a year and a half. In that
That's the
window
key
of
of it.
time, the stars aligned to
Yeah,
create GeekVerse.
Exactly.
which is crazy. Yeah.
Kirkland and I met, and we were working electronics together, putting stuff away in the morning, and that was great because we were talking about Alien Isolation.
Nothing's changed. 10
Oh,
years.
wow.
We're
later,
talking
we're still
about.
yeah, Outlast, and I tried to talk to him about it. They
Outlast.
wouldn't talk to me. You know.
And that's I can't remember this Dying Light. We talked a lot about Dying Light. Fuck,
Right.
there was many a time past talking about all that. And so after that, Well, you held a party, Travis, and there was a bunch of us, but then
It's a
some of
Target
us
closing party.
it's Target closing party, and then some of us still were in communication through one of those Facebook group chats, and that's where E3 had popped off. We were all talking about it, and then it's like, hey, let's maybe just try doing a podcast, and I think
To
that
your
was even a
credit-
joke in itself.
Well, I guess you can say it was a joke. You were the first one to say that about doing something, and then we all gone that. But I don't even know how, because the group chat was us three, Kirkland and Jessica, and I don't even know how that like five. I guess maybe it's just we talked the most together at Target at that time, but I don't even know like who started that or how that became a thing. Because like I said, I did held the party, and I did have other friends at Target that like were there invited, so it wasn't just like, oh, me and the four of you guys. Like there was other people there, but I don't remember how we got to like the
Yeah, I wonder who made that group chat.
us
you know?
five. Yeah, I'm not sure. You'd have to scroll back long time to try
long
and find
scroll.
that. Yeah,
That'd be a long
so-
scroll. The
but,
longest of
yeah.
scrolls.
But no, you were the one that suggested it because we, funny enough, had the idea right after E3, not like before. Because we were just popping off. I think the real impetus was because that was the year Nintendo had a really bad conference, and I think we were all just like, "Oh man, what are they doing?" And we were all big Nintendo fans. I feel like that's something probably all, other than Kirkland, who thought Nintendo was stupid mostly overall. Like some of it was mean, but some of it wasn't. Especially the Switch, he was never on board for a while, but. We were big Nintendo fans, so I think we were just so disappointed. And I think there's many just group texts, and that's where I think you just we should just talk and do a podcast. Okay, I remember it was you, and then we started looking into, and we looked into Libsyn and all that stuff. But yeah, it is crazy to think that it just kind of happened. It was the puppet E3 as Bubs.
Right,
It was
puppets.
It was that because you can hear about it, we talk about it. I don't think we talk about the creation, but on our very first episode. I can't remember. It might be Dylan's because the first episode was we did it at the half year mark, and it was what was your favorite thing of the year and what was your saddest thing of the year. And mine was like for content, not like life. And mine was Hannibal, so I didn't bring it up. So it was either Dylan. I feel like it was Dylan that brought up the Nintendo E3 as like your disappointment of the year.
Interesting. Okay.
And I think go back. That episode's there. The audio is probably gonna be fucking awful because we were in Dylan's basement. And yeah, that's what happened. Now we're 10
we
years,
had
but-
one mic that would be on a bench on top of a Wii,
Yeah.
and then we'd all sit around that. In very different time, we'd be rocking our PJs. It'd be very different because there was no camera for quite some time. And it's funny, I was just laughing about that when we have the intro that plays on the YouTube version. If you watch there. Like those clips are all so old. Like we don't have any new-ish clips in there. It's all from the old basement days and the variety of basements that we recorded in.
I think for
but
the
what a different
11th
time.
year, I want to make a new opening, but at the same time, it's like most of the clips are just like us in these squares.
Yeah.
It's not.
And you
as
can see the
lively.
Wii on the under
Yes.
the mic in almost all those shots. It was part of the identity for some reason.
Yeah, but no, it's crazy. Like even just thinking about like how we all end up at Target. Like I was at Best Buy and I left Best Buy because I got a job at TELUS, and then that fell through. They laid off a bunch of people, and I'm just like, oh yeah, you don't have a job anymore. I never worked there, and they were a terrible company because I remember they didn't tell me for like weeks. I just thought I had a job, and then this person like, yeah, give me a call, and I called them like every second day, nothing to
You're
eventually
buying
get
things like it's all good. I got a job. Start spending money you don't
Well,
have.
no, I did. I remember
no.
Emily was not happy when I was off. I think I bought, maybe it wasn't. I can't remember. There was some big purchases I did make, but I thought I had. Does that sound, Breath of Wild that came out? No, that was further in the podcast, wasn't that? But it was.
2017,
Yeah, there's something like that where I did buy because I did think, yeah, I had a job, and they said you're hired, and TELUS was paying better than I was where I was working at that time, and then it's like, oh yeah, no, it's not happening. So I ended up at Target like a fluke because then I went back to Best Buy, and they're like, oh, we filled your position, and like you could do this, and I had a falling out with one of my bosses, which is all good now because we got back together, and I went back to Target. He's a good guy overall at the end of the day, but I end up at Target like a fluke because it was like, well, I just need a job, and I got part-time there. So like literally if TELUS didn't lay off a bunch of people and unhire me, this might have never started, or maybe it'd be you four and not me, or you three, but like I wouldn't have been a part of that because I was it was a mistake that I stumbled into Target. So
Yeah, it's crazy.
oh, it was
I
Shaw.
remember-
Sorry, Emily said it was Shaw.
Shaw.
Sorry, TELUS. You're great. Everything.
Same
It was Shaw. Yeah, they were very.
Shaw.
I'm sure they're great now, but they are very unpleasant.
not.
Of like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember my first my training day at Target was with Jessica. We both got hired on the same time, and so I remember I met her like immediately. And then Taylor and Kirkland, we weren't in the same department, but we would there was enough crossover there, so I'd bump into you guys all the time. And I didn't even know Travis until Target was well and done at that point. But I remember there was a laser tag night, and I drove
Right.
Travis home because he
did, yes.
lived on the way home. And that was like the first time we ever spoke was me driving home from laser tag. That's when we hit it off, and then everyone else. I was pretty close with the rest of you at that point, but
Yeah. No, Dylan was very nice because I was gonna bus it home, and they asked where I lived, and then brought me there, and then and then I think after that,
I stood out the window for hours.
Yeah, you never left.
yeah, Dylan nicely offered when we worked the same shift because he knew we were working the same way, and that always saved me time because I was in the area we live. So yeah, no, that's the origin story. It's nice to always go over again, but yeah, Dalton, that's how we.
The fact that you can remember that there was a meeting near the towel section, Taylor, like that's the kind of
Yeah.
specific detail that you love to see. I would never remember something like that.
I just remember, I remember that, and I remember us talking Spider-Man 3 and the Venom and the scene. It might have been the alleyway scene that we were talking about.
I think
specifically or
it
something.
was. Yeah,
Wow.
I don't know why,
That's
but
a great deep pull.
Yeah, and even though like I remember Kirkland laugh, I'm even surprised Kirkland kind of got into this thing because like Kirkland said himself, like he's matured and changed so much as a podcast. He's so much more outgoing and he's more personable. You can listen to those first 2 years. Those first 2 years, he's in the room, but like, you know, is he in the room? I don't know. You know, like it's one of those things like he'll talk when spoken to, and he's admitted that freely. But that's why I wonder how did he get roped into this? Because I feel like he was the one I knew the least when the podcast started. But I liked Kirkland, so oh yeah, cool. Like that works. There's 5 of us, but it was one of these things where, and he, I guess technically, right, he's not on the first episode because he.
Right.
He
So
had
he's
to help
not a
his
founding
grandma
member.
move.
He
He's
is
still
a
not a founding
tag-along.
member.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he did leave for a bit, but yeah, no, that was, and he was constantly late. So I remember. Don't you remember that?
If he was here, he wouldn't be getting dragged. But you know, you got to drag him if he's.
Oh, I would drag him. That first year, he was late all the time. We were always waiting for him. Like everybody's late here or there, but Kirkland was always late, and especially like, you know, I get it because he's on the west side though, so I shouldn't badmouth him
True.
too much. But yeah,
It's true.
But anyways, let's get back to some of these topics. Today, Rumor came out from like a C tier and then a C plus tier, so it started cooking, firing up a little bit. Obviously, Mario, I saw you asking earlier, so we're going to talk about this now. You had a question, so we'll answer that. But this week is the Penguin finale, so make sure you go and watch that. Today, I once again was watching the Bat with Emily because I'm just obsessed with that movie and just the score. But it did make me realize, man, I need to get some better blinds where I live because I couldn't see fucking shit. I was happy. I've been telling Emily for the whole time I lived here that we need better blinds. She's like, oh, it's fine. Batman, it's like I can't see Pattinson. I know he's there because I can hear him grunting, but I can't see shit. But today, there's a rumor that the next show, because Matt Reeves confirmed they're doing more shows, the next show is supposedly going to be starring Barry Keoghan as the Joker. It is rumored to be taking place in between Batman 2 and 3. The rumor scuttlebutt is right now that he will have a small role in Batman 2. So I'd hope it would be bigger than Batman 1, but imagine it's probably at least that size. And then he's supposed to be the villain of Batman 3. So Tim, I'm going to throw to you first. Obviously, Penguin, like there's been lots of good buzz on it. Lots of people saying it's, you know, top tier. It's in that top echelon of comic book shows. How would you feel if Joker was next on the bandwagon? Because obviously, big character, great actor, but you know, we just had a bomb movie. So I think it's a little bit different because it's different iterations, but still it's maybe not a runaway hit. Maybe our people in 2 years gonna be like, oh fuck, like another Joker thing. Like, do I need this? But what's your read on this? If we were to get an 8-episode Joker show out of the Penguin.
I think that's you just took the words out of my mouth and you said it then and there. I think that's why we're getting this news on Joker and maybe getting a project because of that movie, Folie à Dieu. And I think that they want to now kind of cast it into the fire. They want to turn it around, and I think they
Destroy it.
Destroy it. Exactly. I think they really want to just put a new spotlight on there right now. And of course, you have Penguin. That's just an absolute banger of a show. One of the best shows this year, if not the best show. So I think that if you have that kind of team and that momentum, throw that on a Joker, and then get some light shed onto that character a little bit more, because people aren't big on the movie. Get some light shed onto that character.
That's not what I heard, but okay.
Shed? Are you saying light shed?
Light, yeah, shed onto
Shed,
that
okay.
character.
Like shit, yeah. I heard shit at first.
I heard shit twice.
Yeah, some light shit.
I
I'm like,
hope
what
not.
does that mean?
I
Yeah.
hope not. There's some older people at my work that don't strike me as like the consistent like go-to movies
Yeah, I
kind
would've
of
voted
guys,
for 'em.
but yeah, but I not that I'm eavesdropping, but I'm kind of eavesdropping because they're
Dropping
working
the eaves.
dropping.
Fuck. I've been doing this too long, 10 years.
So they're talking about Joker too, and that they're saying like, oh, I just found out it was a musical. I was watching it. It was like it was a fucking musical, yada yada
It's
yada. And so
We talked about it in the Discord because I can't remember who. Oh, I apologize. Who brought this up in the Discord? I can't remember if it was Colin or somebody. It was maybe it was Kyle. I think it was Kyle Goldface because I always when I say Goldface, I'm like, who is that? I'm like, Kyle. He brought up that he had someone that same thing, like it's a musical, and like every time this movie comes up in a new conversation, it is like, yeah, and can you believe they made a musical? It's like, man, the people really didn't fucking know there were songs in this thing. It's
didn't.
crazy. Everybody's like, oh, my brother, my sister, like you said, your workers. Every time it's like, yeah, they didn't know. It's fucking bonkers.
it's nuts. He the interesting thing he said was that if you were to skip past the musical parts, it would actually not be that bad of a movie. Like he thought the actors did a good job, and I'm like, okay, well that's one way of putting it. But
Awful
I think
singers, Lady
I don't
Gaga.
agree.
But if you
Oh,
did,
yeah.
but if we're just talking acting, yeah.
Yeah, I don't agree, but that's okay.
I at its core, well, I like Lady Gaga and I liked Joaquin Phoenix's acting portrayals of those characters. I think that yes, the movie definitely does not have enough steam. I mean, look at how fast it was announced coming to be dropping on VOD, right? Like they were just seemingly after it started to bomb, they wanted
Under a
to
month.
just kind of put it into the into the box and kind of lock it up, throw it in the attic. So I feel like this is absolutely no strange coincidence here. They want to just get some attention brought onto this Joker that they, I mean, it could be like they're kind of their saving grace, I guess, to kind of just save this character and just kind of like bring in some more excitement. Because after that movie, I don't think you're gonna have a lot of people thinking like, oh, I'm sick and tired of Joker. I think you're gonna have a lot of people like, man, I'd really love to see a good Joker. And I know I would. I'd like to see a Joker that's more in line with my God, what am I
Ledger.
thank you, with Ledger's Joker, just that insanity, not the Jared Leto one or anything like that. But it just kind of is funny when you think about we kind of go on this up and down trajectory where we got Heath
stole from
Ledger,
me. That's what I was
and then
gonna
we
bring
got
up, yeah.
we got Jared Leto, and then we go up with Joaquin Phoenix, then we go back down with Joaquin Phoenix, and now we're gonna
Yeah.
go back up with Barry. So it's just funny how it's this little roller coaster.
Yeah, I was gonna bring that up. It's funny that we're in this like good Joker, bad Joker sort of scenario where the audience is very happy and then they're very unhappy. So it's hopefully now the trajectory should be that Barry would go up, and I got all the faith in Barry because they got to me one of the best working actors, and
Hot off Saltburn, yeah.
yeah, and I just trust like Reeves, like with Penguin, the Batman, like I can trust at the bare minimum this will be a 7 out of 10. You know, I guess at the same time I would have trusted Phoenix and Company, but now at least with Reeves I got two things right. I got a 3-hour movie and then an 8-hour show, so it's like okay, well, there's a lot of proof in the pudding. So
Yeah, I have no notes on this. Like, this is a rumor, not an announcement. But it's like that sounds like a fantastic idea because Penguin come out. I was always kind of like, really, Penguin as a character? You're making a show
Yeah.
on that, and it's been huge. People love it. Reception's there, numbers are there. It seems like so. Yeah, take an even bigger character. And I don't know if he's a bigger actor, but at least I feel like you take the prosthetics away and it maybe it's a more recognizable actor when you're just seeing it scrolling through like a streaming service or whoever you're watching it. So yeah, I think it's a fantastic idea. It makes a lot of sense. Curious to see how that one will connect with the movie because I have to imagine that he's going to be a much bigger part of that movie than Penguin was a part of the first Batman.
Yeah.
So in terms of like, is this going to be required reading? Is this going to be something that you would watch and then you got to watch the show and then you go into the third movie? Like, I'm curious to see how they line that all up because it seems like this is going to be a more influential character than Penguin, who was definitely more of a side piece at the time. But yeah, I think this show is going to do really great. I don't know if there's like if we can get really specific. Obviously, there's like superhero fatigue. People talk about. Is there gonna be Joker fatigue at some point? Like it feels like we've got a lot of different Jokers, and we still haven't seen how Barry's gonna play this character. Right? We got like one rinky-dink little scene. So we don't even know yet, like tonally. I guess we can assume based on what the Batman is and how dark that is.
and we got the deleted scene too. That I'm not sure if
Okay,
you've
yeah,
watched
sure.
it,
You
but
get the
there-
deleted scene
it's
for
like
the
8
10
minutes.
people who have
Yeah.
seen that. But yeah, at least there is maybe a little bit more evidence of what he's going to be like. But I don't think it's that surprising, right? It's like
Yeah.
it very much fits in the vibe with the rest of the Reeves vibe there, and then the Penguin show, which I haven't seen yet, but I imagine is very similar in tone and all that. So yeah, I mean, I think this is going to be a hit for sure. And I guess it's not something they've really done before, right? Like a Joker TV show?
No.
Or even like
Joker's
him
been on-
appearing in
he's-
things other than like
he's been
animated?
in Gotham. He's been in
Yeah.
Gotham, but they never called him Joker. It's one of these
Okay.
things where it's like they
They
don't
called him
want
the clown. Something
There's
like that.
always some rinky-dink like way around it and stuff, but yeah, like the point about it's gonna be interesting because like obviously like with you not watching Penguin, the way I would describe Penguin is how I've always described Winter Soldier Falcon Winter Soldier, where it's like you can watch it and get a better understanding of what Sam is going to be like as Captain America. But if you're just a GA member, you could just skip it because you see him get the shield in Endgame, and then they made a Captain America movie, right? You could just assume, okay, he was Captain America. That just adds some flavor. So the same thing with Penguin. He's going to be more powerful in the Batman, and this is just showing that. But if you just were to watch Batman and Batman 2, you would just assume like, okay, a lot of mobsters die in Batman 1 and Penguin rose up. Like, I don't have to know, you don't have to watch the show. It's more character stuff. And especially last episode with them getting into like minor spoilers, but they got like into Penguin when he was a child and they added lots of layers to that character. And what I've always been fascinated, because I don't think Matt Reeves does anything on accident, when they had asked him about Barry and what like makes his Joker different, he I'm gonna make it sound like a very just like emo try hard type of answer, but he's like, well, ever since the Joker's been born, his life's been a joke because like he came out disfigured, so everyone's treated him in a certain way where he kind of had to find this personality just to get through life because he was just deemed as like a ugly monstrosity person, so he was cast out from society. And like I said, go find the quote he said in an interview. But when Matt Reeves said all this, I'm like, okay, he clearly already has the backstory for his Joker. It's not like, oh, we're doing a Batman film, let's just put Joker in there, people like him, good cameo. It's like clearly he even said, he's like, he even told Barry when he got the role, he sat him down, he said, I want you for this role. You may never ever play this character again, but let's take a shot and see what happens. But I think the way Reeves speaks, I'm like, okay, he knows what his Joker is. And the way he describes it, I'm like, man, to get these flashbacks in this show could be, it could be heartbreaking, but it's tough because that's the thing now with Joker is you don't want to go that route per se, because we just kind of got that with Phoenix in a sense, right? Where it was the guy cast out from society. They showed, okay, he became a psychotic person, but there was a lot of steps that got him there and he could have got help. That's where, and he's even said this, like, how do you make it different? So it's tough of like how much you want to tell. And even with this one, like you said, Dylan, it's like with Penguin, you can easily avoid Batman. With this, they establish in that deleted scene, it is deleted, but they establish that Batman's the one that caught him. So I feel like, I'm not saying Pattinson has to be in the show, but if one required Batman more than the other, I feel like Joker does. Like whether even just to tell that story a little bit, like I feel like it's strange. And it's also another thing that's strange too. A funny way to think about this is obviously, I guess, let's say all the movies are 3 hours, so we get 9 hours of the Batman. But it's funny, like Penguin already now has more screen time than Pattinson does, and Pattinson's Batman, right? But because Penguin is like not Disney Plus, it's HBO, like they're full hour episodes, you're getting all this backstory on just the Penguin, and it's going to be kind of funny to think same thing with Joker. But I think why I'm the most fan of this, like one, okay, yeah, I love Joker, of course, but like the two reasons. One, Barry, I think I just want to see him sink his teeth and to know, hey, you got 8 episodes. But because in Batman 1, he had a scene, and in Batman 2, it sounds like he's going to be very minor. For him to be in Batman 3, this, I think, kind of makes up for that. Because you're like, oh, like, I think for the GA, they'll just do Batman 3, Batman on a poster, Joker on a poster, sold. I've said this before. I know people sometimes that are sick of the Joker. Batman and Joker have not been in a movie since 2008. That's how long it's been. Like, I know because we've got so many versions, but they've not been on screen. I'm not counting Justice League because Ben Affleck and Jared Leto didn't even film together that day. They filmed with doubles and they cut the scenes together. Like, for them on screen, interacting, fighting, '08, like we're almost on 2 decades of them being in a movie together. It's kind of nuts. So that's where I think there's lots of room for that, and the GA will just go, oh, it's Batman and Joker, perfect. But for me, having a show that builds up Joker before the finale, like the final battle, and Matt Reeves is such a IMDb Batman fanboy. I love it because the most popular pitch after Nolan was like, well, what I really want them to do is don't touch Joker until the third one. You know how many posts I would see when I was in those forums back in the day of like, save Joker for the third one, and that, like, I just love the rumor. It's like, well, the main villain of Batman 3 is going to be the Joker. I'm like, oh, Matt Reeves was in those forums. I know it, man. He's just like and I love it. He operates like a Batman fanboy. Like, even watched the movie again. So Yeah, I'm all excited. To answer Mario, he asked, why don't they make a Batman show instead of a spin-off to Batman without Batman? I think just the easy, clear-cut answer is Batman is a billion-dollar property. And obviously the Batman didn't do that, but just overall. So I think they, and I agree to extent that if they just did a show called The Batman, I think now all that money that they make off those movies kind of maybe disappears, or that amount disappears, right? I think that's even the reason worry why he might not be in Penguin and Joker. They might worry like Batman still has never been on TV live action, really. Like there's been little hints of it, but like in Smallville they weren't allowed to use him. In Titans he was very shadowed. Like they keep Batman very like cloaked away. Even in Gotham, he didn't get the suit till the last shot that shows him the suit, and then the show ends. You know, like that's what they do. They don't want Batman on TV, but I think they're just worried that if they put him on TV, people won't pay for him. You know, so
Interesting. Not trying to devalue him.
yes,
Potentially, a little fear there.
yeah. Let's see. We got a couple here, and now we'll get Sabrina Carpenter on the soundtrack. I hope not. I saw a lot of people being like, "Oh, they're gonna cast her as Harley now." I don't think we need to go that route. Let's. I think Harley and him can stay apart for a while, and we'll see. Right? Yeah, they called him Jerome on Gotham. And then there was Jeremiah, his twin brother, who also became a Joker type of character. Sam says Barry puts 110% in everything he does. I just can't see his version being anything other than amazing. I agree there. And especially I feel pre-Saltburn, this show maybe has a little less juice, but after Saltburn, and I'm sure some other things will come out, I feel like just even like you said, Dylan, like even he looks a bit more like Barry. Like I feel like people will be more excited because it's Barry, and I think he's starting to build up that profile of being a star and everything. So yeah, no, I'm excited. I hope this happens. I can't wait. I want Selena because I didn't know if Joker was on the table, and this kind of tracks to at one point Reeves was working on like an Arkham Asylum show, just like the Ray and the Star Wars trilogy. I could see you kind of folding those two together of like, hey, what I was doing with Arkham stuff, let's put that in the Joker show. And they did, like, that's a highlight of that show is there's one episode, Dylan, where they do go to Arkham, and it's mighty fine. It's a very scary place. So, but yeah, we'll see what happens there. So, all right, I'm going to round off all these movies and shows, and you guys can decide what to talk about. You might need to pull up the details on the stream, and if you forget any, but here you go. All right. Movies and TV shows that are in the work or have been announced. Mass Effect Amazon show, which has come out today. Agent Venom is supposedly in the works at Sony. That's with Flash Thompson. He becomes a military guy. He goes to war, loses his legs, gets the symbiote, and the symbiote like gives him his legs back, and he becomes like an ass kicker. But if he stays in the suit too long, he's stuck that way. There's three live action Lego movies in the works over there. Patty Jenkins is doing one of them, so I can give you the full rundown after. Ridley Scott revealed that he's producing a new Alien film. Disney is making a live action Prince Charming movie with Chris Hemsworth and supposedly Daisy Edgar Jones. That was rumored today. There's a Game of Thrones movie in the works. There's an Outlast movie, and Godzilla -1 is getting a sequel. Taylor, you don't got to talk about all those, but what do you think about any of these? A lot of stuff getting announced last week and this week.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff. The Lego movies, I really did think that Lego Ninjago movie was going to be the last one that we got. I think people kind of forget that we had that one, especially after the success of the Lego movie, Lego Batman, and the Lego movie 2. I've seen the trailer for that Pharrell Williams Lego project. That looks like a lot of fun. It's a really neat take. Is this included? Is that included in the 3 movies?
No, this is 3 other ones. And remember, though, those are animated. These are live action Lego movies.
Live action.
They
which
did
is
not say if
kind of
it's
what
like
the other.
Sonic.
Well, the first Lego movie is kind of live action, right? Because you have Will Ferrell.
I guess. Like I wouldn't put that as like I wouldn't. It's tough because it does have live action stuff. I wouldn't classify it as like a live action movie, but you're not wrong. So.
I would love it if we got. I mean, it wouldn't happen, but throw some Bionicles in there.
Of course.
Yeah, so I'm very much looking forward to that. I'm very excited. Agent Venom, color me interested. I am very excited to see what we got going on there. I think that'd be a lot of fun. Mass Effect TV show. I've never been one to actually play the Mass Effect games. It's always been on my list, but I've never played them. I remember my friends were always excited for them in high school, but I was always just at the time playing Halo. That was kind of my spacey age game at the time. But I think doing a TV show is great because, well, I don't know a lot about the story. Doing a show, kind of like just the Fallout situation, would help me kind of get familiar with that universe and understand what's going on. So I think that's awesome. Maybe Amazon should take Assassin's Creed while they're at it because Netflix is doing fuck all with that.
Yeah, it's quiet on that front. That was like
Very
3 years
quiet.
ago now. Yeah.
Very quiet. Ridley Scott producing an Alien movie. I am interested, very interested, just because of the success that we've gotten with Alien and Predator right now. And again, I'm excited to read more of those Avengers versus Alien comics because I shared with you an interesting little thing from that.
Yeah. It's looking, there's this spicy stuff going on there. I'm excited to
Yeah.
retro those next year when Predator comes out. We'll all read those. So.
Yeah. Prince Charming. I mean, Chris Hemsworth. You are. I mean, he can do anything. He's a great guy.
Do you think that's a good idea though? Like a live? Do you think that's success? If they sit you down, Taylor, and Disney's budgeting their, not Marvel stars, Disney is looking at their live action movies, anime movies for the year, and they say, "Okay, Taylor, we want to make a live action Prince Charming."
They don't need to do this.
Okay, that's what I was curious. Like, I don't even know if I agree because like I haven't really given much thought to it. I just thought, like it's an odd one. Also, because like Hemsworth, other than Thor, doesn't like have big movies, so it's not like. I don't know. I'd understand if it was like Timothy Chalamet or like even Ryan Gosling coming off of Barbie, but it's not like Hemsworth is like, man, this makes this an automatic hit,
Yeah, it's not an automatic hit. To me, it just feels like it's in the same category as Snow White and the Huntsman, or Winter's War, whatever it is.
What about this there? How do you even make a Lego live action movie? Feels like a Lion King situation. Which I
Same way you make
agree.
a Minecraft live action movie.
Oh.
Yeah, I guess you're not wrong. I guess it's just kind of Sonic-esque where there's a lot of live action actors, but there's a lot of CGI around, and yeah, 3 of them.
Game of Thrones movie. I'm always down for more Game of Thrones. I am still riding that high of House of the Dragon season 2. Fantastic show. Fantastic. Outlast. Yeah, we got to get back in there. We got to go back to the asylum, all of us, together and just indulge. Because I that world is just so terrifying, and to actually get a movie centered around that is very, very freaky to think of. I'd love to be in a theater, just experiencing that. Yeah, just terrifying. Just
We
terrifying.
talked about on Side Quest because it's the same thing. I've been jonesing for that because I was during Halloween. I think we were just all busy, and then with this announcement, like, I'd like to do a couple more Asylum runs here soon. So.
Absolutely. Godzilla -1 sequel. Yeah, this is interesting, and I'm curious what that story will entail. I really, really don't know at this point, just with how that first movie ended, but the idea that this guy will get another shot at another Godzilla movie and have an even bigger budget is ecstatic. Like, it makes me super, super stoked because with that low budget that first one had, and with how he was able to just capture the scale and the depth and just the fear and the terror from Godzilla in that movie was great. So I'm all there, and I'm so happy to see him kind of take on like another Godzilla project, because we don't know if it is a sequel. I'm 100% assuming it is a sequel. I don't think it's anything else. Maybe it would be a follow-up to Wingard's Godzilla movie, but I don't think that they're doing him dirty like that. So
Taylor doesn't remember this, but I remember telling him, like, I'm sure with the success of this one, because it's a big success, they'll make a sequel. He's like, no, they wouldn't make a direct sequel to
I don't
this. I'm like,
remember.
I think so. I'm pretty sure, and I feel like they were going to do that here. And Taylor wasn't really liking my pitches of where the story was going to go, but you gotta. The first movie is about nuclear war. I feel like you got to cover the aftermath of nuclear war. Like, it's a very, because still you never saw -1, right? Yeah,
Never did.
it's like, so it's a Godzilla movie, but like it's a war movie, and there's multiple stretches where the plot has nothing to do with Godzilla, and it's just about like PTSD, and it's a very well done, like more dramatic movie. So I just feel like they're gonna go that route of talking about the aftermath of nuclear war and what it can cause on somebody. Plus, that lady, I'm telling you, Taylor, they're gonna do something with that lady. she was shining. So they didn't do that.
Shining.
I just feel like nowadays you don't put like a little end credit, or your movie doesn't end in a way where it's like open book and like we're gonna leave it there. You know, most people do something. So, what about you, Dylan? Any of these floating your boats? 3 live action Lego movies?
I'll skip past that one. I don't know if I have much to add on that. We'll see what those trailers look like when they come to be. I'll be very predictable here and talk about the 2 video game ones. Outlast, if you've listened to Side Quest this year, you know I've played through that entire trilogy this year, so I'm very prepped and ready for that. And yeah, I think there's a lot of potential there. I really am curious to see what they do with the found footage element of it, or like even just the first person element of it with the camera. And you know, a big part of those games is about the darkness and like conserving your batteries. And so I don't know, I'd be curious to see how they translate some mechanics like that. They very well could just avoid all that stuff and just make it a generic horror movie in an insane asylum. But even that is set for some fun stuff, and there's some crazy things that happen like in the end of that game too. So curious to see if they go all the way there or if they just kind of make it a more simplified thing. And then I'd also be curious to see how they implement a story element to that, because a lot of the lore or intrigue of that game comes, or like the first one in particular, comes from like walking around the asylum, seeing a note on the ground, reading the note, and that's kind of how you get most of the story given to you. Other than that, it's just like maybe a set piece moment where there's a villain guy yelling at you, but it's pretty constrained until like I would say the very end. So they could even switch it up and have like multiple characters rather than just like one guy going to this place. But I'm really curious to see what that looks like, and curious who they get as like writer, director, all that kind of stuff. But I'm excited for that one. I think that's cool. And then for Mass Effect, so this is a big blind spot for me gaming wise. And you know, I've had the time, I've had the bandwidth. It's on Game Pass. It's there. It's just never really appealed to me, the Mass Effect games. And so this is honestly perfect for me. It's the same way that Last of Us, I've tried to start that game 100 times and I just hate the gameplay. Like, not that I think I would hate Mass Effect gameplay, but it's like I want to get more into that world, get to know those characters better, but I don't think I want to put the time and effort it takes to play through that game. And so I'm cool. Like, this is great for me. This seems like a great way to get that story across for me. So I'm into it, and I think Amazon is a good pick based on the things they're doing right now. I think they're a good one to go with. Obviously, Fallout was a great example of how to do a video game TV show, and I think that's another good example there of like when we're talking about Fallout. Of course, that wasn't adapting an individual game. There's a lot of references to characters or factions, but there isn't specific characters or game storylines that they're overdoing there. But I think through that show, because it was a TV show and they had a lot of time, they could kind of throw like multiple types of characters and throw characters on the other side of the spectrum, from like a true good character to a true evil character, and characters kind of in between on the spectrums. And I feel like with Mass Effect, that's such a big part of those games is like the decisions. And I forget, it's like Renegade and I forget the other side, but there's like, are you making the good or the bad choices? And like ultimately a show like this, if they are adapting the story 1-to-1, they're going to have to pick a side, and they're probably going to pick the good side. But maybe they can kind of explore that rather than just having like one shepherd. Maybe they can implement a couple other characters in there on different sides. And maybe the companions can do that too, with more like evil coded decisions versus the good guy sort of decisions. But I'm excited to see what they do there, and if it is something that goes multiple seasons and they get into the sequel games. I mean, I'm pretty sure the games, and of course I haven't played them, but I'm pretty sure the games, like the sequels, just straight up make some of the endings canon, and like you just have to deal with it even if you pick the other options. So I'm sure that they would do that here and just pick like, what is the best story that we want to tell? We're just going to go with that rather than doing some weird like multiple choice thing. Obviously that format doesn't work as well unless you do like Bandersnatch on Netflix, which was, you know, not the norm by any means. But yeah, I think that's a really, really great pairing. You know, Amazon has the budget to make a big sci-fi thing like that happen too. So I think that's a really great pairing. I'm pretty excited for that. And yeah, Renegade Paragon, that was the other side, Paragon. Thanks, Mike, for that.
Yeah, you answered Mike's question because he asked, do you guys think Mass Effect show would directly adapt the games or go the Fallout route and create
I think
new
that
story?
one would more adapt the story of the of the games rather than do the Fallout thing. I think that makes a bit more sense for... Like, Fallout is a narrative game, but I also feel like it is such a free-form, open game, and you kind of make your own story, whereas Mass Effect, yes, you have decisions and stuff, but like it is a more linear story, and it is more of a narrative-focused thing. So I think you go that route. Like the player freedom is probably less so than like a Fallout where you can go any sort of way. In terms of like your character be really dumb or really smart or use different types of weapons even and be a hacker, that kind of thing. I feel like from what I understand, Mass Effect's a little bit more narrowed, a little more focused on the scope of things, right?
Now, two things. One, you said because you've never booted up Mass Effect, right? You just
Never booted. It's
okay.
never been booted on a console that I've been holding a controller for.
Okay, because at least The Last of Us understand you said you booted up and then not for you, so you went away. But I'm just saying, maybe let's circle back because this I've been wanting to replay them because I've played 1 and 2, never played 3 because I heard controversial things and just didn't have the bandwidth at the time. But I bought when it was on some deal, whatever they did that collector's
The Legendary Edition?
Yeah, I bought that because like I would like to have these games because I had them on Xbox, but I like now it transfers from my PS4 and PS5, so maybe tentatively put that on the schedule. I'd be down to at least do a retro.
Apparently,
for 1.
Mass Effect about 17 hours, about 20 hours. That's not so bad for an RPG.
Oh, I guess, but
If
that's
you do all the side quests and stuff, it adds up the time, I'm sure. But
yeah, that's what I was gonna say because that for me is the closest a game has ever captured this like spirit of Knights of the Old Republic, like as far as like your decisions. And Mike is right, where it's like that's the one where it's like they do cross, like a lot of your choices do cross over, which is great. When I boot up too, you had this, and this, like, oh, I feel like I'm playing the same character. Yeah. But yeah, the more important points are not choice based, and yeah, that's exactly it, right? And that's where I think they'll, because you could easily look at this and go, oh well, Fallout, they already did that, the whole let's do a new storyline set in the world, why don't they do it again? I think Fallout does have some, iconic games and characters, but I don't think they have any one character that's iconic. It's like Commander Shepard, right? And the other thing that's tough, though, is Commander Shepard means something different to everybody because they chose their story, right? They made their mission. So your Commander Shepard might be different than mine, but it's still a character. It's still a legendary person. So I think I'm 51-49 on them doing the Shepard thing. I think they will. There's other classic characters they can, and I think they'll just pick the storylines that suit best for going multiple seasons, and it'll be interesting. And I trust Amazon. I think it's a good thing to have because Fallout, I think, worked out for them. I think, again, Mass Effect as a TV show works better than a movie. I think Amazon has the budget, and like Amazon doesn't have, like, they got Lord of the Rings, which was their medieval show. They got Fallout, which is their apocalyptic show. I don't think they have like a big mainstream space show, so they're kind of ticking their box off, and Mass Effect does that. So Taylor, before I go, what do you think they're going to do? Are they going, Mike was asking, do you think they follow the storyline or do they fall out it where they go, do their own storyline, but it's set in the world of Commander Shepard and all that stuff?
I think you do the Fallout era theme, I should say. I think that if you are doing something that's an original story, I think that's great because you do have those pre-existing foundations that exist with the games, and like you guys said, you have your own version of Commander Shepard based on your decisions in that game. So I think that if you were to base the game heavily off of him, that might not be super well received because everyone has different engagements. So if you have him just appear here and there as a cameo character or just interacting with the main character of this show, then I think that's a really, really good idea. There's got to be a lot of different stories they can tackle. I mean, the only story I know of is that there's this ancient alien race in there that's trying to wipe out humanity or something like that. That's all.
Another
that I know.
Classic.
Yeah.
Good trope. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Travis, if they do follow the games like 1-to-1, we'll say, for example, do you think they go man or woman for Commander Shepard? Because that's always a big decision for people.
Man, just because
one?
like because
I feel like a lot of people prefer the female voice performance in that game, and so a lot of people say that's like their favorite route.
Yeah, I just feel like who's always in the box art though, is the male version of Commander Shepard. It's always the guy with like the hair of mine, where he's like a little more
based off Travis Snell.
Or no, is that not just of the new Mass Effect game, like the one that didn't perform?
I think the new one has like a helmet on, but you're right that
it has a helmet.
It looks like dude on the front of the first one.
Could you be?
Presumably,
maybe it's been so
it looks like
long
all
that
three of them have that then.
Yeah,
I thought she was on the third one as a cover.
No, that's the new game. Remember they made that one Mass Effect game that didn't go good and had a lot of launch problems and everything? I wonder if that's what you guys are talking about. It's like Mass Effect Andromeda or something
For
like
3, I'm seeing that there's a version for each, but I don't see that for the
Yeah.
first 2 games.
that? Okay.
I don't
Mike,
see
you might
first
be able to
two.
tell us because I feel like you have some Mass Effect fandom going on. And that's true, Mike said the writer does not, the writer they hired does not seem to have a lot of credits, which, yeah, I saw it's like Fast 9. And then Espo said, yeah, okay, no, there you go. You got a female in there. And then Espo says The Expanse was supposed to get the base game. Not sure if they ever released that. But yeah, and yeah, they had The Expanse, but The Expanse didn't go
Oh,
to
yeah,
like
that, I remember that.
The Expanse. I don't think hit like what I'm trying to say. Like I think Mass Effect could hit like the Fallout sort of levels and everything. And also we forgot to let's see,
That
the
Expanse
third-
game is out now. Came out
Okay.
last year apparently.
And then as Super Mike said, the third had both. You could turn it inside out. There you go.
Ah, the classic, the reversible. Yeah.
Gotta go Femme Shepherd. And the other reason I just don't think they will is because with Fallout they have the female. It's an ensemble, but they have a female lead. I'm Trash told you, yeah, it's gonna be the male Commander Shepard.
Yeah, I mean,
That's
I think for a lot of people with the game, it's not like the I forget her name, but whoever like she does her performance is a lot better from what I've heard.
Yes.
But obviously with the show, they're gonna cast someone well.
Mm-hmm.
Hopefully.
And like they're in this business, like they're in the business. But I mean, like even we didn't cover, but it was a couple weeks ago they got a new showrunner for the God of War show. So Amazon's like they're making some big moves on these big franchises here. So I'm excited for
Fallout
I'm
was
excited
a
for Mass
huge
Effect.
success, so it makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I'm happy it was because then we get more stuff like that. So I'm excited by that. S-Bubs is right about that. What's his name? Ridley Scott did produce another, like he produced Romulus. I hope it's like that, and because I don't want to say like his time's done because I even rewatched Covenant for the retro, and I even liked that more than I did the first time, which the first time I gave like a failing grade. But I just feel like I think what they had with Romulus was a good situation, and I also don't want them. We talked about this last week with Predator to oversaturate it. So like I feel like Romulus, the sequel to Romulus, like let's just keep it at that for now. Like let's not go too heavy. I know people love the IP, and I know Disney and that brand want to get all that stuff out there, but like if it's an additional one to Fede. If it's an additional one and it's like him directing or something, that's where I'd go. I think Ridley Scott's good to move on from here. Enjoy the Gladiator success he's about to have. So you got that going on. I already said Prince Charming, not a good idea, but for some reason I think it could be more of an enjoyable movie because I think they're going to play Prince Charming as like a lovable idiot, and Hemsworth is great at that, right? Like he does that type of bit all the time. So it's strange. Like Daisy Edgar Jones is circling this. I thought there'd be a different trajectory, but Disney's probably getting some good money out there. So Agent Venom, that's funny. That's rumored. Me and Taylor talked about that last week of like what they could do next, and I brought up Agent Venom because I just feel like you can use Venom, but it's like a new story, and I guess that could be your new hero. So, and the Venom's still some cachet name. Like it didn't have as bad of a drop as Joker did. So luckily for them, they probably look at it, they go, oh, okay, like trajectory's going down, but maybe there's some juice in here. Lego live action movies, just start at one and go from there. Dumb idea. Godzilla I spoke about, and then Outlast. I'm excited and pissed because I remember when we were on the playing the game back in the day, I was like, oh man, I bet they won't make this into a movie. Like I was just like had it on the long bucket list of like long-term goals. Like, oh, I'd love to go and just pitch this because I just feel like it's like even Until Dawn to me is like a smaller Sony IP. So I was like, I don't know if everyone's going to touch Outlast. And even when we play Trials, I'm like, you could make a very, very good, because the world is small but still vast, whether it is Trials, whether it's the first one, and I've never played the second one, but there's so much to do. And with that asylum, I just feel like you can keep that to a cheap budget, and I feel like you can make a easy profit with that movie if you make it just decent. And I feel we were talking about that. It's like what Dylan was bringing up. I hope with at least if they adapt the first game, and I'm pretty sure the guy that wrote the games is writing the movie, or he's one of the writers, so that's cool. I would love them to still incorporate the camera some ways. I think they got to find new plot points. Maybe those notes and stuff you pick up, maybe you film flashbacks for those, or there's radio recordings instead of notes of exposition. But I think Outlast is a franchise that a bunch of people aren't going to know there's video games, but if done right, it could be one of those franchises that has like 3 to 5 sequels in the future, because I think there's so much there, and I love that world. So I hope it works, and we get to see Mrs. gooseberry on screen and stuff, and I think it's right for the taking. But I also think it's a movie they could do. It does terrible. Like everyone just thinks it's a shitty horror movie of the year. It's just like a basic bitch horror movie that they just made to try and cash grab, and then you never see it again. So I hope they take some love and care into this, and yeah, we'll see what happens. So we'll take our last ad break. We'll talk about a few trailers, and then we'll be right back. And we're back. So we just had a few trailers here, and then there's one mini topic in the middle of it. So you got Skeleton Crew, that's a Star show coming out in December. You got Presence, which is a haunted house movie, but it's from the perspective of the ghost this time. So it's kind of like that in a violent nature.
Okay.
Yeah, that's what it is. You got the Squid Game Season 2 trailer, but I also want to ask because at the end of last week, they announced that they are greenlit and they're doing the American remake with David Fincher, who directed The Killer last year, obviously Seven, The
TV
Social
show or
Network.
movie?
TV show, I think as of right now, that's what it sounds like. And then also Hard Eyes, which once I watched it, I regret putting in there because there really wasn't much to it, but I put it in there because I was like, oh, this.
My question is gonna be, why should I care about this?
Yeah, I had like it's good producers, good. I'm like, okay, and then when I saw, it, I was like, oh, it's like only a minute over. Then I watched, I'm like, okay, that was sometimes Travis misses on the trailers, and I'll admit the Hard Eyes was missed, but I hope I like it when it comes out. I'm always down for it.
Yeah.
I liked that kill they had in the trailer too of the couple getting it on, and he makes them kiss by stabbing a knife through him. Like I thought, okay, if the whole movie is like that, there could be some fun there, you know. But yeah.
I'll jump in here. Yeah, Presence. I didn't even like catch what the premise of it was, I guess. But when I was watching, I'm like, man, this camera work is really interesting. Like, I feel like even just the whatever lens they had on the camera, it just looks kind of weird and off. And then they're like the angles that they're doing is like it's always a little bit too high or a little bit too low. It's just like a little bit off. So I feel like they're kind of getting off this like slightly unsettling vibe with the camera work alone. So I really like that. Like the cinematography of it, but in terms of character or story, there was not much in the trailer that really grabbed on me. But now that I know that premise, I'm really into it, so that's cool. Skeleton Crew, nothing to add on that one. That's not of all the Star Wars Disney shows that I've skipped. That would be bottom of my list in terms of the ones I want to watch. And you know what? It's not the audience for that. Not me.
Yes,
It's like for
yeah.
kids, I think, right? So you
Yeah.
know, go ahead, cool. And then Squid Game Season 2. I don't know how I feel about this one. I feel like it's like maybe that show was like lightning in a bottle for like one season. And when I was watching the trailer for this, it just felt like, okay, we're a lot of retreading the same ground, a lot of revisiting what we've done before. And I just don't feel like I'm going to enjoy it as much as I did that first one. We'll see. Maybe there's a fun twist on it, but in terms of the story of like, we're back in the game and the one guy's back and he did it before, but then like, no one's listening to him because why would they? Because they want the money too. It's like, okay, so we're just doing the exact same thing again, which is like, I know I'm sure a lot of people just want that. But then you even have like the same game, so it's not even like new games. It's like, I don't know.
I
What's
hope
going on
that
here?
changes. I hope they're showing us the same
There's
games.
got to be
but
some
then-
new ones, right? But that, like from what I've seen, I don't know. It looks like a lot of retreading the same ground, and I just don't see where the compelling thing to that is, other than like they're just doing a cash grab on it, which seems like it's possible, unfortunately.
Yeah, I just feel like that has to be a cliffhanger, right? Where the whole pitch is he knows the games, he's played them, and one episode has to end a cliffhanger where a room opens. He's like, I haven't played this game before, and then it's like, you know, cut to like, because I feel like that's like a, oh shit, because then his life is back in danger,
Yeah.
right? Because what is the fun of it's just the exact. Like I think I understand the pitch they're going for, but yeah,
Yeah.
it is interesting.
I mean, even given all my reservations there, I'm still gonna watch it for sure. So looking forward to that. And then yeah, the remake. I'm once again, it's like, okay, we're retreading the same
Yep.
ground, doing this again. Curious to see. I mean, great director pick for that. Director,
Yes.
writer. Is he doing? Is he
I
both?
assume. I think he.
Yeah.
Well.
Does he normally write the movies that he's directing? I don't actually know.
I
him
don't
that well.
think he does. I think there's at times, but actually, no. I think he's usually down just to do a
Okay.
lot of direct. I'll pull up his credits, but actually, I was going to say that, but no, I don't think he's like a Tarantino type though, where he has to have his
Right.
hands
So,
on it all.
I'm curious to see who they would get then as a writer for that. But I think director, that's a really great pick. And yeah, I'm really curious to see what they do for cast, because obviously coming into that Squid Game season 1, a lot of us, especially here in North America, like we don't know any of these people, and that to me added a lot. Where there were some really standout performances in there, and that was really fun and different. And so they could go multiple directions here, where they could try and go for young up and comers, no names, so to speak, or they could go for like bigger star people because that is a huge IP now. Even though
Yeah,
like one
easier to
season, but
pitch,
then like
yeah.
Mr. Beast is doing his shit too. It's like it's just a huge deal now. So yeah, I don't know. I'm really curious to see what goes on with that. But I assume I'd watch that too. Like I guess I'm all in on the Squid Game train, even if I'm have my reservations about just kind of retreading the same ground over and over again.
Maybe if you get a bad season 2 and then a bad American season, that's when you might be out.
Yeah.
Because they have said that the original show the Korean show, that's going only 3 seasons. They shot them
Okay.
back to back, and then that's
Interesting
the
that they
end point.
Throw a third one in there even, but
Yeah.
yeah, I'm curious. I hope that they kind of switch it up a bit, right? Like I hope we don't get just the same. Without spoiling what happens like near the end of that show, when you figure out more about what's going on, behind the games and stuff, behind the cameras. Like I hope some of that stuff is different and not just like a 1-1 remake of what we had before. And I'm sure hopefully a lot of the games are different too, and it's not like I'm sure you throw a couple in there, the classics, but
Yeah.
hopefully we get to see some other fun, creative, freaky, weird Saw Trap level weird stuff in there as well. And hopefully they come up with some fresh new ones with that remake as well.
Yeah, as a cinephile, I feel embarrassing for not knowing this, but other than a couple short films in 2000s, he has not written a single thing. He's just a director and producer, so he's a shooter, and obviously he has
He's a shooter.
yeah, which is interesting because he has like a distinct style, but lots of those people that have that style is like writer director, like
Yeah, even thinking back to Killer last year, like, man, that it must be working so closely together, obviously, to make that movie happen. But it feels like such a cohesive vision. You just that movie smells like one that's written and directed by the same person.
Yeah, I know it's just he's just that good. So yeah, and it's interesting too because I rewatched again this year, but he did a movie back in the '90s called The Game. It's with Sean Penn and Michael Douglas, and it's similar.
Not a prequel to the Squid Game.
No, not exactly, but it is a similar. Guy is putting a lot of interesting situations, but they're all in the real world. They're not in a room like The Game is or a building, but they're in the real world, and they're all. This guy signs up for an experience, and it's a little more than he could handle. So, and that's the opposite, where it's a guy that has money and has everything, and he's just looking for some jolly. So it is kind of funny that's a reverse of that. And so for the trailer, I don't know if I wanted to know the pitch now, because I kept being like, okay, why is this guy going back, right? Like, what can this character do? I do find there's like some merit in like, okay, this is a good hero story of. Maybe there's more to it, but is he in there literally just to try and save people? Like that's, because he does say in the trailer, like, hey, if you keep doing this, you're all going to die. Obviously, there's going to be similar themes to the first one, but I'm just wondering what the whole plot is. But that did get me in. It reminded me a lot of, it ends up to be some falsehood, but Amanda in Saw 2, and she's a survivor of the trap. And I always like that aspect of the, I've done this before, listen to me. But like I said, I do think there has to be some curveballs thrown in there. But yeah, I'm excited to see where they go. I think, and I was interested as well. They made it seem like the games or the hosts or whatever were caught off guard by this guy was back in. I thought they would know, but the fact that in this trailer, at least the way the edit made it seem like they were surprised he was back in. What does that mean? So they do got my curiosity. I agree with you about the games and everything, but as far as him being back there, like the motivation. The American one, I don't know. I feel like it's like I kind of want them just to take the concept and do a completely different story. I don't need the exact beats. I don't need like certain revelations like you're talking about with certain characters in there. I would love it. Like you can hit on similar beats, but again, back to how he directed the game. He did the Girl with the Dragon Tattoo, the American version, and it's not a 1-to-1 adaptation, but it's pretty much just. Here's a remake of the Danish film with a few things changed, right? So it might just be that. And it's also good for Fincher because, like, it's kind of a layup project where you just know people are going to watch it. And with when they did the whole strikes and everything like that, there's new things on. You get certain bonuses if you get watched by this. And you have to, I think it's kind of like I feel like even if it's bad, people are going to tune in just to see it. And then maybe, progressive seasons after, seasons that predecessor won't have the same comeback, but I feel that season 1 for the American show has people, and especially because there's some people that won't want to listen to this dubs or read the subtitles. They're like, oh yeah, finally I can watch Squid Game and not have to worry about it. But yeah, and then what else was there? Hard Eyes I talked about.
Skeleton Crew.
Skeleton Crew. Was that it? I thought it was another
Presence?
trailer. No Presence, yeah. I'm on the camp of I liked In a Violent Nature. That was the movie where it followed like what if you followed Jason Voorhees. I get why people wouldn't like it. I get people's complaints. I think the movie does really fall apart in that third act, but I really enjoyed that idea of okay, let's watch this lumbering around. And it's like I had my expectations set and that's what I got. And I still have my expectations here where I feel like it's going to be a very, very slow movie. You're going to have to take your time with it. I don't think it's one you're going to watch when you're tired, but I'm interested. I like seeing Lucy Liu in like a more serious role. That's always good. So I'm very curious what they're going to do as far as like, even if it's a haunting, like when this thing, does it possess someone? And if it does that possession turn to like the first person view of the person it possesses? I don't know. I'm very, and like same thing. Lots of these horror movies, usually, not usually, I'll say 50% of them, the ghost is there, but the ghost is there because of something bad happening, right? Not because they choose to be there and they want to haunt you. Lots of these ghost stories are like, oh, well, this really happened to this guy, and, he was possessed and he killed his family. Like, I think that's what I'm interested in, is taking this, what we would appear on the outside of like a ghost or whatever, some demonic thing, and it being scary. But if you make it from the point of view from the ghost, I actually think you could make it like a tragic story, and that idea that you've been locked up here forever. There's a good movie that I don't think it hits on all the beats, but it's just called Ghost, and it's with Rooney Mara and God, what is Ben Affleck's brother name? Casey Affleck, where he dies and he just haunts the house, but he can't really interact. So he's just stuck in this house for like decades and decades. And he sees as like his wife gets a new boyfriend and she gets pregnant by him. And then he moves out and it's a new family, another family. Like it's just like an idea of, okay, what would happen if you were stuck here? So I think there's something interesting of like, if you could make the ghost, like not scary, like trying to, like they're trying to get freed. So I'm very excited by this one. I don't think I would see in the theater because I definitely think this could be one that could be like, fuck, that was a tough watch and not fun. So I think this is definitely a home one for me. And then finally, Skeleton Crew, super disappointed by, because I was digging the trailers they'd show before, but what I hated about this is it felt very much like they're trying to make Guardians of the Galaxy, and that to me is not what I want Star Wars to be. I like Guardians of the Galaxy being, hey, there's a little Star Wars in here, but we got a big spin on it. I don't want Star Wars doing that, even though like some people might think it's cute. I don't like them using a song from our music, but then like having it sung in like Star Wars lyrics, like it's like some alien language, but it's a song. I can't remember what the song was, but it's a song that is a pop hit song. So for me, I don't like that. I didn't like what they did in Acolyte. So for me, this trailer actually unsold me. I'll watch it because I think the girls hopefully will enjoy this. I think they could be fun. There's some of these kid actors looking charismatic, and Jude Law looks like he has some fun. But for me, there was something more, I don't know, innocent about that first full trailer. There was something where it just felt like what people compare it to, like an E.T., and I liked that vibe, where this was more like the swashbuckling, like, oh man, we're doing it now, and then it's like big effects and explosion and a pop song. It's like I'm not saying it's going to be Borderlands, but it felt like that, where it's like, okay, I get what you're going for. You guys are worried no one's going to watch the show. So I'm hoping the trailer one is more the show, and this was just a bad trailer. If the show's more like this, I'll be less sold, but yeah, there you go. So remember, like, that's the best way to describe it. Ghost Story, the movie with a 10-minute pie eating scene. Yeah, that's what happens when you're a ghost. It's a tough watch, but I enjoy it. But Taylor, end us off. Your thoughts on these trailers?
Oh, yes. Which one to start with? I'll go with Presence. Presence, I remember I was talking about this, and I'm really looking forward to it. Just the fact that, yeah, it's the perspective of this entity and just how much fun you can have with that. Like, it almost feels like you're a stalker, I guess, which you pretty much are, as you're this entity, because just you're experiencing things through the spirit's eyes. And so whether this thing has possession going on in this movie or whatnot, or just, yeah, multiple families moving, like you guys already talked about, there's a lot of interesting outcomes that they can really tackle with this. And so I'm looking forward to it because I don't think I've seen anything like this. It just reminds me of something like a Hardcore Henry. Again, very different tone and very different atmosphere and from that movie.
I'm surprised you haven't checked out A Violent Year yet, because you're a big Friday the 13th guy. So
Violent Year, is that
or
the
In
Justin
a Violent
Long
Nature,
one?
sorry. No,
Oh, Violent.
Justin Long.
Yeah, didn't he play, what was that one where he's the Candy King killer or the mayor of the town during Christmas time?
No, That's like a Christmas movie with I can't remember what it is, but it's a play on that. No, a violent nature. In a violent nature, that's the POV from like a Jason Voorhees type of character.
Right. I need to watch that one. That is on my list. Yeah, I got to get around to that one. Oh, what else do we got? Yeah, Squid Game season 2. I remember everyone talking about season 1, and I thought, oh, you know what? I'm gonna dip my toes in and let's see what's going on. And I finished it in a day. I thought, holy fuck! I kept trying to stop myself, but that show was so awesome. I loved it. I love the story. So I'm really excited to get back into that world. I'll probably try and rewatch the first season. Madison never saw it. I ended up just binging it on my own. So I'll see if maybe I can get her on board this time to give it a go. Because yeah, that show it's great. I can't wait. What else do we have? Yeah, Hard Eyes. That scene in the back of that van was just a curveball. I was just not expecting that. That's quite a death.
It's a wonderful knife. That's what you're thinking of.
Yes, that's the one.
I wouldn't recommend it.
Yeah, and so then Skeleton Crew. The trailer thing the song that you said that it was like our music, but then redubbed in that like kind of like Star Wars-y vibe. I actually really liked it, and it's weird because like it doesn't necessarily feel like Star Wars. It feels very much like its own thing, and that's where it'll be difficult to remind myself, like, hey, this is the same universe. Like Luke Skywalker is like buzzing around right now. Palpatine's out on Exegol right now, just like rejuvenating, and Snoke is moving around. Like Kylo, like it's
Jack
just there's
Black's
so many
hanging out.
Yeah, that's right. There's so many factors going on during this time that's just weird and peculiar. But I kind of like that they're. I commend them for trying to do something very, very different with this. And I think that we'll see if it pays off, or we'll see if maybe it doesn't pay off. Who knows? But it definitely has that Goonies kind of vibe to it, and that's owning up to it. Maybe Stranger Things, a Goonies Stranger Things, which is funny that Stranger Things kind of dropped a trailer too.
Yeah, just the titles. That's why I didn't put it in here. But yeah, it's that's what I was hoping it was more Goonies than Stranger Things, but I just feel like it wasn't as serious as trailer. Again, I'm hoping they just cut it that way. But yeah, I don't know how this is gonna do. Luckily, like Agatha ended up doing well and found an audience, and it kept like growing in the ratings. It did become like a massive hit. So maybe this will happen, but I just wonder after Acolyte if this is the right show to put out there in the Star Wars world. Like I could see this going bad, but as usual, just people just, be nice to the kid actors. They're just trying to start out here, and everything. So
yeah, there was one creature that they showed, and maybe I'm wrong to think that it's the same creature, but it was in the trailer very briefly. In Rogue One, there was that thing called a Bogally or whatever it was. It was like that mind-reading creature, and I'm pretty sure. I'm just flipping through the trailer here. I'm pretty sure that it popped up briefly.
Okay.
Bogally, but maybe not. Like
Bogally.
it looks like it could be something different, but it's similar. It has like long tentacles and whatnot. It was a thing that like latched onto the pilot and what's his name? Lies. What's his name? Tommy Charles, help me out here.
Lies.
Deceptions. What's his name? Saw Gerrera.
God, why am I forgetting his name now too?
Is it like Frost?
Forrest Whitaker.
Forrest, thank you.
Frost Whitaker.
Frost Whitaker. Yeah, because
actually it's Forrest. Thank you. All right,
Forrest
Frost.
Whitaker. Yeah, that's when he's like Bogally, and then the creature comes out and
It's not
like
coming
his
back
pet.
to me. Sorry.
No. Yeah, I think when you try to invoke Rogue One, you got two of the worst people here to try and invoke that with. So
Yeah, it's all good.
I've shut that out of my brain.
Yeah.
Deleted it.
it's
on the hard drive.
gone. Yeah. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we have done it. I don't think. Is there anything I'd add? Anything we missed? Nothing.
Take me home.
Take you home. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we will be back next week with there will be another newscast because they have D23 Brazil happening this week. They got panels for Disney, Marvel, and Star Wars, so we should be.
Do we even get a D23 Canada?
Hopefully.
Where's our D23 Canada at? Come on.
But it's just gonna be in Toronto. It's not like
It's
at
true.
least even in Vancouver.
Good for Brazil.
we're gonna
I'm
get-
just like, where's
Yeah.
ours?
Yeah, but yeah. So hopefully we get some news there. Until then, don't not be warned.
Bye.
Bye.